Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Pokémon, the legendary trainer who farms at home. Chapter 1, Fengyuan Area, Luyin Town. In front of a farm, a young man stood in front of the farm gate, looking exhausted, as if he had been traveling for a long time. It's been a year, and I'm finally back. I don't know how Grandpa and Grandma are doing, and what they are doing now. Duo. Above Chen Shi's head, a little dragon with dark green and yellow colors opened its eyes that had just woken up, and cried happily at the familiar place. It quickly flew down from Chen Shi's head and rushed directly into the farm. Chen Shi smiled helplessly, and then pushed open the door of the farm. Grandpa, Grandma, I'm back. Seeing that no one responded around, Chen Shi scratched his head and didn't care. It was almost evening now, and Grandpa and Grandma should be feeding the Pokémon on the farm, so it was normal for them not to respond. Following the route in his memory, Chen Shi walked towards his villa without haste. Looking at the familiar scene in front of him, Chen Shi couldn't help but fall into memories. He was not originally from this world. In his previous life, Chen Shi was just an ordinary worker. After working overtime for too long, he was late for work the next day. Because he was in a hurry to get to work, Chen Shi was sent to this Pokémon world by a dump truck. Now it has been 16 years since Chen Shi came to this world. This world is not like the animation in the previous life, where you can go out to travel at the age of 10, but you have to be 15 to go out. When Chen Shi turned 15 a year ago, Tongzi, the standard configuration of time travelers, also awakened on time. However, after giving him a Pokémon egg, Tongzi ran away directly, leaving him only a system panel. The Pokémon egg given by the system successfully hatched after 7 days, and it was the green and yellow dragon that just flew away. Yes, it is it, Duolong Messiah, shining. Chen Shi was so excited at that time. What is this? A quasi-god. It is still shining. You can imagine how happy Chen Shi was at that time. In his previous life, he liked the Dragonite, known as the Little Giratina, very much. He didn't expect the system to give him such a big surprise. After being fed with various high-end nutritional supplements by Chen Shi, the little Dragonite soon left the larval stage. The high-spirited Chen Shi immediately took the little Dragonite out for a trip, ready to punch the dodo and kick the Diamond King. The imagination is beautiful, and the reality is cruel. The excited Chen Shi completely forgot how weak the little Dragonite was before it evolved. After being defeated by a green caterpillar, Chen Shi sighed to the sky, then ran back home in shame, bringing the initial Pokémon prepared by his grandfather for him, a Hoenn starter Pokémon, the Water Leap. Until now, Chen Shi still remembers the half-smile on his grandfather's face when he saw him running home. Even his face after 2 lives as a human being couldn't stand it. However, with the addition of the Water Leap, Chen Shi's trip went smoothly. He had experienced a lot this year, including danger and prosperity. Finally, after discussing with his partner, Chen Shi decided to return to his farm. Chen Shi was tired enough in his previous life. After traveling in this life, he still felt that life on the farm was the happiest. Just as Chen Shi was about to step into the gate of his villa, a purple fat man suddenly emerged from the ground. It stared at Chen Shi for a moment, then quickly pounced on him and shouted in surprise. Ko Jia, ha ha ha, Gengar, long time no see, you've gained weight again. Chen Shi was pounced on the ground by Gengar and hugged the purple fat man. This is Chen Shi's grandmother's Pokémon. She watched him grow up since he was a child and often made all kinds of funny moves to make him happy. The relationship between one person and one ghost is quite deep. After all, who can refuse a purple fat man who laughs at you all day long? Ko Jia, Ko Jia. After hearing Chen Shi's words, Gengar jumped off him, bent his 2 fat hands, and made a bodybuilding movement, indicating that he was not fat, but strong. Chen Shi smiled, and with a thought, Gengar's various data appeared in front of him. Pokémon. Gengar. Level. 70 Early King. Qualification. King. Gender. Male. Features. Curse body. Skills. Black eyes, Shadow Ball, Dream Eater, Hypnosis, Will-O-Wisp, Same Life, 100,000 volts, Guard, Substitute, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Claw, Sleep Talk, Strange Light, Licking, Misfortunes Never Come Alone, Dark Night Shadow. You've become stronger again, and you've broken through the king level now. Ko Jia. Zheng Gui put his hands on his hips proudly, very proud. Chen Shi smiled and patted it. Okay, I know you are the best. Where are your grandparents? Why are they nowhere to be seen? This is a real world. Pokémon strengths are divided into different levels. Gengar's strength at the king level is almost at the top of this world. As for the champion level, Gengar probably won't reach it in his lifetime. After all, the champion level is not so easy to break through, and there is a huge gap between the king level and the champion level. A dozen Pokémon with the strength of Gengar combined cannot beat a champion level. And now Gengar's talent has almost reached the top, and the probability of breaking through is extremely small. Unless there is a great opportunity, Gengar may only be at the king level for his whole life. Ko Jia. Gengar pointed to the depths of the farm, and Chen Shi also understood what it meant. As he had guessed before, Grandpa and Grandma were feeding the Pokémon on the farm. Handing the space backpack to Gengar, "Can you help me put the backpack upstairs? I'm going to find my grandparents." Ko Jia. Zheng Gui nodded happily, patted his belly with his chubby hands, and flew upstairs after taking the backpack. Chen Shi smiled, took out 4 luxury balls from the belt around his waist and opened them. "Come out, this will be our home from now on." Le Soon. Wa. Hia Ji Du Yi. Bu Yi. The water jump fish that Grandpa prepared before had already evolved into a 3-meter-high giant Swampert, and Lady Hua Jia, Togepi and Leafeon were all captured during the trip. As soon as it came out, a little egg rushed to Chen Shi's feet angrily, waving its little hands and slapping Chen Shi's legs. Hia Ji Du Yi. Chen Shi smiled helplessly, picked up Togepi, and coaxed him softly. "You were bored and tired from traveling, so you scored the ball yourself. Why are you blaming me? Chajadui. Don't listen, you are just a fool." Pokebee obviously didn't buy it. He hugged his short arms and closed his eyes, looking angry. Swampert, Lady Flower Clean and Leafeon all laughed at this scene. Chen Shi had no choice. Togepi needed intimacy to evolve. He had always taken her outside before, which made the little girl dislike Pokeball very much. Now, she was angry. Helplessly, Chen Shi stretched out a finger and shook it in front of Togepi. Chajadui. The little girl smiled and nodded hurriedly, rubbing her trainer affectionately. She knew that one thing was that she could have one more ice cream today. Looking at the little girl's happy expression, Chen Shi couldn't help but chuckle. Turning around, I looked at the silly Swampert, the gentle lady with blue flowers, and the innocent Leafeon. This world is so great. Let's go, I'll take you to meet my grandparents. The little dragon has already run away. Litiao. Wah. Buoy. The Pokémon responded happily, only Pokémon's eyes turned slightly, and I don't know what bad idea he was thinking. Let's go quickly, grandparents are feeding other Pokémon now, maybe if we go early, we can get a good meal. The food my grandparents cook is even better than mine. Leaflet and Pokémon's eyes lit up, better than the food they made when they were young. Before meeting Chen Shi, the 2 country bumpkins lived a life of eating from one meal to the next in the wild. It was good to have food, so how could they be asked to choose? It was not until they met Chen Shi that they knew there were such delicious food in the world, and there were also various exclusive energy blocks. Now Chen Shi told them that the food made by grandparents was even better than his. Yibu and Dan couldn't help it, and hurriedly urged Chen Shi to go faster. Swampert also looked impatient. He had lived at home when he was a child, so he knew that Chen Shi was telling the truth and was not lying to the fish. Only Madame Hua Jia was more mature and steady, tending to her flowers while walking. Chen Shi smiled and changed the subject. "Madame Hua Jia, you said that the farm is so big, how about I divide an area for you to plant a garden?" Flowers. Madame Hua Jia was no longer reserved at this time. She had wanted a garden for a long time, but unfortunately she had been traveling with the trainer before and could not fulfill this wish. Now how could she be reserved after hearing this? Of course it's true. When have I ever lied to you? I will find a good place for you tomorrow. Flowers. Madame Hua Jia bowed gracefully and thanked him. Chen Shi gently stroked her head, and before he could say anything, he was grabbed by a pair of big hands and thrown on his shoulders, and then ran towards the depths of the farm. Swampert, be gentle, why are you so anxious? Quote. Swampert rolled his eyes at Chen Shi and ran away quickly. He couldn't wait any longer, but the trainer was still babbling. Didn't he know that rice was the most important thing in the world? What can't be said tomorrow? Chajadui. The Togepi in Chen Shi's arms shouted happily, and Mrs. Waji and Leafeon looked at each other and hurried to catch up. Old man, you see the quality of this 3 honey is getting better and better. Let's leave some for a few hours to eat. He and Little Dragon loved to eat this. On the back hill of the farm, there lived a colony of 3 bees raised by Grandpa and Grandma. Today is the day of harvest. Grandpa Chen nodded and replied, just leave some of the best quality, and use the rest to make potions and Pokémon food. The little girl from the Junsha family was seriously injured by the wind speed dog during the mission. She asked me to make a bottle of top-level resurrection potion, which happened to be short of some top-level 3 honey. Quote. Grandma Chen said worriedly, the little girl from Junsha's family is not far from the king level. The main wind speed dog was seriously injured during the mission. I don't know how Xiaoxi is doing and whether he is in danger. Quote. Grandpa Chen smiled and said, don't worry too much. Didn't Xiaoxi contact us some time ago? Boys always have to go out and see the world. It will be good for their future. Besides, there is unrest everywhere now. We can't protect him all his life. You were right, we can't protect him all his life. Grandma Chen couldn't help but sigh. Looking at his wife's worried look, Grandpa Chen was about to say a few words of comfort but was interrupted by an excited cry. Duo, duo. The 2 old people were stunned, turned their heads and looked, and a different colored Duolong Messia flew over happily and pounced directly on Grandma Chen's head. Duo, duo. Oh, it's Xiao Duolong. Grandma Chen quickly grabbed Xiao Duolong on her head and asked, are you back with Xiaoxi? Xiao Duolong nodded happily and flew to Grandma and rubbed against her. Grandpa Chen couldn't help but get excited, and said quickly, okay, it's good to be back. Then let's go back quickly, let my old friends take these honeys back. When he heard about honey, Xiao Duolong immediately got excited and flew to the jar of honey and dug hard. Duo. Seeing that he couldn't open it, Xiao Duolong shouted anxiously, and Grandma Chen said with a smile, don't worry, I'll keep it for you and Xiaoxi. Go home first, and Grandma will make you delicious food in the evening. Xiao Duolong's eyes lit up, and his saliva flowed out. He nodded hurriedly, and then flew to Grandma Chen's head and lay down. The 2 old people smiled at each other and said the queen bee here said hello and walked out. On the way, Grandma Chen couldn't help but tease, little Duolong, a year has passed, why haven't you evolved yet? Can you beat the green caterpillar now? Little Duolong was furious when he heard this, and patted Grandma Chen's head with his little paws, closed his eyes and didn't want to talk. Not being able to beat the green caterpillar is the pain of his life. And Grandpa Chen was still making up the knife on the side. You can't do this, I remember a year ago you and Xiaoxi made a fierce promise, what to suppress the world's invincible hands. As a result, after so much time, you can't even suppress the green caterpillar, right? Duo. Little Duolong was immediately dissatisfied, and patted his chest with his little paws to show that he was very good. Oh, so, Grandpa Chen asked with a smile, what about the water jump fish? It should be a giant swampert now, can you beat it? Quote. You are the original Pokémon when you were little, the boss of the team, you can't even beat the second one. Looking at Grandpa Chen's teasing expression, Little Dragon opened his mouth and didn't know how to refute. Can he beat Swampert? Of course he can't. That big guy can beat him into a dragon sauce with one punch. He can only barely beat Togepi now. Thinking of this, Little Dragon felt very hurt, and flew to Grandma Chen's head, doubting his life. Grandma Chen reached out and patted Little Dragon to comfort him. It's okay, Little Dragon. I see that you are on the verge of evolution. When you evolve, you will be very powerful. Then you can suppress the invincible in the world. Quote. Grandma Chen couldn't help but laugh when she said the last sentence. Little Dragon's eyes were full of longing. Xiaoxi also said that he would evolve soon and he would be very powerful when he evolved. Little Dragon believed it without a doubt. Because this was what his trainer told him, he would definitely not lie to Dragon. Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen did not continue to tease it, but just smiled and walked towards home. You know, Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen are both top breeders certified by the Alliance. Naturally, it can be seen that the little dragon is already at the peak of the elite and is about to evolve. A year ago, the grandson suddenly said that he picked up an egg, and the two old people did not care at first. After all, the Pokémon hatched from such an egg of unknown origin have low potential, and they just thought that the grandson was just in a whim. But unexpectedly, after the little dragon was born, even Grandpa Chen did not recognize what Pokémon it was. It was still Grandma Chen who recognized it. This is the quasi-god Pokémon of the Galar region that has just been included in the alliance. After the two old people tested it, they found that this little dragon has incredible potential. The two of them took it seriously. After some understanding, they found that this is also a quasi-god who can't be late. It is about the same evolution level as the three-headed dragon, so it is not surprising that it has not evolved yet. Quasi-god, that's understandable. At this time, Grandma Chen suddenly thought of something and said worriedly, I heard that after the evolution of Little Dragon, Duranchi needs another little dragon on its head. After evolving into Doran Baruto, it needs two little dragons. Why don't we negotiate with the alliance to see if we can exchange two little dragons from the Galar region? Grandpa Chen smiled and replied, when it was hatched when it was small, I asked someone about it. The evolution of Little Dragon is actually similar to Metagross. One is a combined evolution, and the other is a split evolution, but the latter requires a high level of talent, and Little Dragon will definitely be no problem. When it evolves into Duranchi, it can split a little dragon on its head, and when it evolves into Doran Baruto, it will split another one. And the split little dragon cannot evolve, and will rely on the big dragon to survive, so you don't have to worry about this. Is that so? That's not bad either. Grandma Chen nodded, and then sighed. Pokémon is really a group of magical creatures. Grandpa Chen also echoed. That's right, don't you see that those researchers and doctors are still digging out the secrets hidden in Pokémon? Just then, a 3-meter-tall Swampert stood upright in the distance and was running towards this side. There was a person sitting on its shoulders, waving his hands vigorously. Grandpa, Grandma, I'm back. Grandma Chen was immediately excited when she heard the words, threw down her crutches and walked quickly towards her grandson. When Swampert came closer, Chen Shi quickly signaled Swampert to put him down and ran over to support Grandma Chen. Oh Grandma, don't worry, if I get bumped, I won't be able to survive. Grandma Chen looked at the boy who had lost his childishness, her eyes full of heartache. Why are you tanned? You must have suffered a lot this year, right? Grandma will make you delicious food tonight. Okay, thank you Grandma. Chen Shi replied with a smile. Grandpa Chen on the side also stepped forward, looked at his grandson and nodded, and the worry in his eyes was finally put down. How long do you plan to stay this time? Chen Shi was stunned, and then replied happily, Grandpa, I don't plan to travel, I will take care of you on the farm. The two old people's eyes lit up. It's good not to travel. A year is enough. It's good to be on the farm. Just stay by your side and feel at ease. After all, this is the only descendant of the old Chen family. Their son and daughter-in-law died because of suppressing the Pokémon riot when their grandson was more than 1 year old. They have experienced the old man sending the black hair, and they don't want to experience it again. You haven't fallen behind in the knowledge of breeders, right? Chen Shi smiled confidently. Grandpa, don't you know me yet? If you let me take the exam, I will bring back the advanced breeder certificate for you to see tomorrow. Quote. Okay, Grandpa Chen couldn't help but laugh out loud. He knew that his grandson was not a boastful person. He was talented and could take the intermediate breeder exam at the age of 11. The old man was afraid that the tree would stand out in the forest, so he delayed for 3 years before letting his grandson take the exam. But the 14-year-old intermediate breeder is still amazing. You know, the youngest intermediate breeder in the league is now 25 years old. When the grandson passed the intermediate breeder assessment, it shocked the entire league, and Chen Shi was also hailed as a genius who would become a master breeder. After so many years, the grandson said that he was already a senior breeder, and Grandpa Chen was not surprised at all. Soon. At this time, Swampert was anxious. Didn't he say there was something delicious? Why are you still chatting about it? Soon. Swampert walked to Grandpa Chen with grievance and patted his stomach. The meaning is self-evident. After taking a closer look at Swampert, Grandpa Chen nodded with satisfaction. He was full of energy, his muscle lines were perfect, and his strength had reached the peak of the elite, which was quite good. Looking at Swampert's silly look, Grandpa Chen laughed and scolded, "You are the same as your mother. There are 3 honeys in it, go get them. But don't think about stealing them, help me take them home, and I will share them with you in the evening." Letisk. Swampert was overjoyed when he heard this and ran back quickly. 3 honeys, I didn't expect to eat such a good thing as soon as I came back. When he thought of the deliciousness of 3 honeys, Swampert ran faster. Chen Shi looked at this scene with black lines on his head. This fool is really embarrassing. Grandma Chen said with a smile. He is just like his mother, a real foodie. Xiao Xiao just came back today, let's call everyone over and have a reunion dinner together. The grandfather and grandson agreed. At this time, Grandma Chen rubbed her eyes when she saw the Pokémon running over not far away. Old man, what kind of Pokémon is that? I can't recognize it. The grandfather and grandson turned their heads and looked at it. Chen Shi suddenly realized and smiled mysteriously. Grandpa Chen waited for Mrs. Hua Jia to bring Li Fivi closer and observed it carefully, then hesitated and said, "This seems to be the newly discovered Li Fivi some time ago. I remember that some time ago, there was a person called Severe Choice Difficulty on the researcher forum who published a paper on Li Fivi and Ice Eevee. Is that so? I didn't expect that Xiao Xiao would also have one of the newly discovered new species of Eevee." Grandma Chen smiled and didn't take it to heart. "Bue." Li Fivi politely greeted the 2 old people. "Wah." Mrs. Hua Jia bowed gracefully. "Good, they are all good children." Grandma Chen smiled and said, "This should be Mrs. Hua Jia from the Kalos area. No wonder the little girl asked us to help find a top-quality lightstone 2 months ago. I guess it was given to you." "Wah, thank you." Mrs. Hua Jia politely thanked the old lady when she heard that the lightstone for her evolution was found by this old lady. Chen Shi suddenly remembered something and hurriedly said, "Grandma, I have to trouble you to find another lightstone for me. This child needs it." Chen Shi raised the Togepi in his arms, who had not spoken since the beginning. "Cha, Chajadui," Togepi greeted timidly. Grandma Chen hesitated and said, "The lightstone is fine. At worst, we can ask the Zifuchi family to exchange it for another one. But I remember that the evolution form of Pokémon has not been figured out yet. Is it evolved with the lightstone?" Chen Shi was stunned and did not explain. "You will know when the time comes." Grandma Chen did not ask more questions and nodded in agreement. "Okay, let's go back first. It's getting late. Didn't we say we would have dinner in the evening?" Chen Shi smiled and walked home with his grandparents. As for a greedy fish, it was naturally forgotten. In the evening, Green Shade Town, Chen's farm. The food is here. Chen Shi brought the Pokémon food prepared by his grandparents to the table outside the villa. A large group of Pokémon cheered and sat down. Chen Shi smiled, "These are definitely not enough for you. Remember to eat more meat and energy cubes." Then he distributed enough food to each Pokémon according to their size, as well as a cup of 3 honeys. Togepi and Eevee couldn't wait any longer and started cooking. "Chaji, Dewey, it's so delicious." "Buyi, that's right." The 2 little cuties were so happy that they almost fainted. Even Mrs. Waji started to eat voraciously. And the head of the little dragon was already in the bowl, leaving only a piece of its tail outside. As for Swampert, it's better not to mention it. After taking a look at the Pokémon of his grandparents, Chen Shi couldn't help swallowing. At the peak of the king, there are Tyrannosaurus, Lizard King, Venusaur, and Garchomp. At the intermediate level of the king, there are Swampert, King Nabo. At the early stage of the king, there are Gengar and Parasaurolophus. At the peak of the quasi-king, there are Roserade and Gardevoir. There are 4 at the peak of the king, and they are simply too powerful. The series of skills made Chen Shi dazzled. Grandpa and Grandma are definitely the hidden bosses of the alliance. Among them, the intermediate level of the king, Swampert and King Nabo are the parents of Chen Shi's Swampert. Chen Shi suddenly thought of something, ran to his grandmother's Garchomp, and asked, "Brother Shark, it's been 7 or 8 years. You and Sister Long haven't had a baby yet. I'm waiting." Grandpa's Tyranitar, Garchomp's wife, snorted and exhaled 2 streams of white air from her nose, turned her head and didn't want to pay attention to the 2 guys. Garchomp scratched his head with his big claws and shouted angrily, "Land Shark, Land Shark. Why are you in such a hurry? I've tried my best. Wait a little longer. Chen Shi smiled and didn't care. The birth rate of dragon Pokémon is pitiful, not to mention Garchomp and Tyranitar, which are pure-blooded dragons. In addition, his strength has reached the peak of the king, so Chen Shi never had any hope. He said this just to tease Garchomp. When Chen Shi was 9 years old, this guy stole a bottle of wine from his grandfather and drank it. Unexpectedly, he got drunk directly. He even said that he would work hard with his wife in the future to have a baby and travel with Chen Shi. He thought Chen Shi couldn't understand, but he didn't expect Chen Shi to be unethical and understand Pokemon's words. I don't know if it's because he is a time traveler, but Chen Shi can understand Pokemon's words since he was a child, and he is also a natural superpower. Although he is not as good as freaks like Nancy and Catalia, he can still use telepathy and telekinesis to move small things. So Chen Shi remembered what Leibite Garchomp said at that time and often teased it. Brother Shark, I'll give you something good. Chen Shi took out a bottle of wine from his pocket and handed it over. Leibite Garchomp's eyes lit up at once, and he quickly took it, and then patted Chen Shi on the shoulder. You kid, you are so sensible. At this time, Grandma Chen called out, Okay, Xiaoxi, stop messing with it, come and sit down. Chen Shi smiled, ran to sit next to his grandparents, grabbed the barbecue in front of him and started to eat. There are ordinary animals in this world, but they are all kept in captivity for food. Grandma Chen asked with concern, Xiaoxi, how was your year in Sinnoh? Did you encounter any danger? Grandpa Chen on the side also pricked up his ears, wanting to hear his grandson's travel story. Chen Shi smacked his lips and said, What danger can I have? You know, I don't plan to challenge the gym, I just walk around and take a look. But Sinnoh is indeed a beautiful place, and I met 3 friends there. Chen Shi glanced at Madame Waji, Leafeon and Togepi with a gentle look. Chen Shi continued, At that time, Madame Wajia was just Wa Bebe. She was captured by poachers from the Kalos region and sold in Sinnoh. I saved her by chance. I originally wanted to hand her over to Interpol and have them send her back to the Kalos region. I didn't expect that she would stick to me and not leave. You don't know, her expression was so pitiful at that time. Later, she joined my travel team. Togepi and Leafeon looked at Madame Wajia with strange faces. I didn't expect that the intimate big sister in the team had such an experience. The 2 little ones looked at each other, snickered, and continued to eat. And Madame Wajia's face it was already red, but she still pretended not to hear anything. The 2 old men smiled knowingly and asked, What about the other 2 little guys? Chen Shi glanced at Leafeon and Togepi and said regretfully, I found them in an underground cave. At that time, I got the news about shiny iron dumbbell, so I thought about looking for it. The Metagross that appeared in the animation, according to the timeline, the author said it is iron dumbbell here. But after 2 months of searching, iron dumbbell was not found, and finally I met these 2 little guys. At that time, the 2 of them were much more miserable than Madame Waji. The 2 little ones lived in a dark cave since they were born. Because they couldn't beat other Pokémon, they usually lived on moss. When I met them, they had already fainted from hunger. When little Duolong heard this, he immediately became proud. Duo, I found it. Leafeon and Togepi buried their heads deeper. Madame Wajia snorted and glanced at the 2 little ones. You 2 have the nerve to laugh at me. Grandpa Chen asked at this time, Xiao Xiao, do you like Metagross very much? Do you want me to negotiate with the Zifuchi family and exchange one for you? It just so happens that your team is not full yet. Forget it. Chen Shi waved his hand, Metagross looks better when it is a different color. I heard that the iron dumbbell was a different color, so I was interested. Is that so? Grandpa Chen thought for a while and said, different colors are no problem. The Zifuchi family must have it. If you want it, at most you can pay some price, Grandpa I promise to change one for you. Chen Shi asked in surprise, is this Metagross so worthless? I heard that the ace of the son of the Zavoki family is also a Metagross. How many are there? Grandpa Chen replied with a smile, the Metagross is a special group. They have no gender, and reproduction depends on division. So as long as there is a Metagross, it can split into 2 or 3 iron dumbbells in its lifetime. Is that so? Chen Shi's eyes lit up. Metagross, who can't be tempted? In the previous life, I saw the scene of Daigo stepping on Metagross in the animation. It was so handsome. But Chen Shi changed his mind and decided to forget it. He already had a small Metagross, so there was no need to stick to Metagross. If I go to change it, my grandparents will definitely have to pay a lot of money. Not worth it. So Chen Shi shook his head and rejected Grandpa Chen's proposal. No need, Grandpa, I don't like it that much either. That's it. The two old men looked at each other, and Grandma Chen nodded slightly. Understanding his wife's meaning, Grandpa Chen immediately knew what he meant. He made up his mind that since his grandson liked it, he would ask the Zifuchi family to exchange it for a different colored iron dumbbell no matter what the price. Suddenly, Chen Shi thought of something and said in surprise, Grandpa, what do you think about me exchanging it for a place full of ancient elves? Ancient elves. The two old men were a little confused. What ancient elves? Chen Shi smiled and explained. They are all those elves that became extinct in ancient times. Like fossil pterosaurs and sickle helmets. Chen Shi was talking about Dasha Valley. According to the current timeline, Daigo and Dodo have just debuted, and Xiaoji is still a little kid. No one has discovered Dasha Valley. This is his advantage as a time traveler. Anyway, their family is not a research family or a business family, so they have no interest in Dasha Valley. But the Zifuchi family is different. If Dasha Valley is developed, it will be a gold mine. And there is no news about fossil resurrection technology now, so the Zifuchi family must be very interested. Grandpa Chen thought for a while and said, can you confirm the authenticity of this news? After all, it's for exchange. Don't make a fuss if the news is false. How could it be false? Would I lie to you about this? Chen Shi replied. But this location is in the Kanto region, not in Hoenn. Kanto region. The two old men looked at their grandson strangely. If they remembered correctly, Xiaoxi had never been to Kanto, so how could he know so clearly? Then the two shook their heads and ignored these messy things. It's normal for young people to have their own experiences and secrets. As long as their grandson is healthy, it's fine. Grandpa Chen agreed immediately. I will help you contact Mu Jin. But if it's really like what you said, I'm afraid the value of this place is more than an iron dumbbell. After all, a quasi-god Pokémon, even if it's a different color, is actually not as valuable as you think. Chen Shi waved his hand and said indifferently, just contact him. If it's more than that, just exchange it for a cultivation manual for the iron dumbbell, and the ores needed for the growth of the iron dumbbell. Anyway, you must not let me suffer a loss. By the way, Chen Shi glanced at Xiao Duolong and asked, do you have any top-level calming potions at home? Xiao Duolong is on the verge of evolution. I want to use the energy of the attribute gem to stimulate Xiao Duolong's evolution. It's better to prepare a bottle of calming potion to prevent Xiao Duolong from being washed away by a large amount of energy and damaging his body. Xiao Duolong didn't eat when he heard it, flew in front of Chen Shi, and shouted in surprise. Duo, calming potion. Grandma Chen thought for a moment and said to Gardevoir. Gardevoir, please go to my laboratory and bring potion box number 36. Get some more dragon gems and ghost gems. Sanai. Gardevoir nodded gently upon hearing this, and disappeared in an instant. Seeing this, Chen Shi was a little envious. Instant teleportation was really convenient. After a while, Gardevoir reappeared in front of everyone, holding a potion box in her hand, with 5 top-level dragon gems and ghost gems floating around her. Thank you, Gardevoir. Chen Shi looked at the potion box and gems placed in front of him and thanked him softly. Sanai, you're welcome. Little Duolong couldn't help it a long time ago, and excitedly lay on the attribute gem, and directly began to absorb the energy inside. Little Duolong felt like he had come to heaven, squinting his eyes comfortably. It was so intoxicating for the dragon. Grandpa Chen frowned and said, Xiao, give the potion to Xiao Duolong quickly. Xiao Duolong's body can't bear to absorb so much energy from top-level gemstones. Chen Shi also understood this truth. He didn't care to blame Xiao Duolong for being anxious. He quickly opened the potion box and took out a bottle of emerald green potion. Xiao Duolong looked at the potion in front of him without hesitation. He knew that this would be good for him, so he stretched out his little claws to grab it. But when he tried hard, he found that he couldn't grab it. Xiao Duolong looked at his trainer in confusion. Duo. Chen Shi was silent for a while and said, Xiao Duolong, are you ready? If you evolve, you can't play carefree. You will receive hard training and experience all kinds of difficult battles. You will get hurt and it will hurt. In this way, do you still want to evolve? Around, grandparents, and many Pokémon all cast their eyes on Xiao Duolong, waiting for its answer. As Doran Messiah looked at his trainer, the scenes of their time together flashed through his mind. The trainer who had taken good care of him since birth, played with him every day, and was crazy. The trainer who never cared about his mischief, said harsh words, but tolerated him again and again. When traveling, a man and a dragon were defeated by a green caterpillar and could only run back home in shame. The trainer who was obviously very disappointed kept comforting him. Doran Messiah remembered that in the past year, when he encountered danger, he always had to rely on the protection of the big idiot, and he could only lie on the trainer's head helplessly. When fighting with other trainers, the big idiot always took the lead. After the victory, the trainer always gave it a hug and generous praise. Doran Messiah could feel that the trainer was very happy at that time. It envied the big idiot for being so powerful, always protecting the trainer and bringing him victory after victory. Now it is finally going to evolve and get rid of this weak body. Of course, I am ready. Doran Messiah looked at Chen and nodded firmly, took the potion and drank it in one gulp, and absorbed the energy in the attribute gem with all his strength. The energy of the dragon attribute and the energy of the ghost attribute suddenly rioted and rushed into the body of the little dragon. The area of the gems of the two attributes is shrinking. A dazzling white light emanated from the little dragonite, and its body gradually stretched and grew rapidly. I also want to protect my companions. I want to protect my own trainer. I also want to stand in front of the audience and win for you. After the light of evolution dissipated, a 2-meter-tall shining dragonite appeared in front of Chen Shi. Chia, Pokémon, Dragonite, Shiny. Level, 53, Gym Primary. Qualification, Legend. Features, Penetration. Gender, Male. Skills, Bite, Lightning Flash, Scare, Hold, Raid, Strange Eyes, Endless Entanglement, Malicious Pursuit, Misfortunes Never Come Alone, High-Speed Movement, Shadow Ball, Rapid Turnback, Dragon Dance, Lurking Spirit Surprise Attack, Dragon God Dive, Dragon Wave. Congratulations, Dragonite. Chen Shi looked at the data of Dragonite and couldn't help being excited. A year has passed. During this year, various resources have been poured into it. As soon as the little Dragonite evolved, it reached level 53, jumping 4 levels from the original 49. And it has also learned 9 new skills. This is finally the end of the hard work. Chia, Dragonite looked at its new body excitedly and threw itself on Chen Shi excitedly. It rubbed him hard with its wide and flat head. Grandpa and Grandma smiled at each other, and the other Pokémon also looked away. Swampert, Lady Flower Clean, Leafeon and Togepi all walked up to offer their blessings. Chia, Dronchi flew down from Chen Shi's body and proudly showed his new body to his companions. At this time, Chen Shi noticed that there was a little dragon Messiah lying on the head of Dragonchi, exactly the same as when Dragonchi was just born. This should also be the little dragon that Dragonchi split out of. Okay, Dragonchi, come with me. Chen Shi stopped the proud Dragonchi. Quote. Brought it to Garchomp and said, Brother Shark, please help me train this guy. It is also a pure dragon Pokémon. Garchomp wanted to refuse when he heard this. You said I should teach you, so I will teach you. Don't I, Garchomp, have no face? Besides, why should I find something to do when I can't stick to my wife every day? But when it heard the next sentence of Chen Shi, it immediately patted its chest and agreed. Enough whine. Quote, Land Shark, just wait and see, brother. I promise to teach you well. Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and he turned to look at Dragonite. Sister Long, please pay more attention. Dragonite glanced at Duolongchi, and nodded in agreement after feeling the rich dragon blood in its body. Chen Shi was relieved. Dragonite was still reliable. Roar! Dragonite shouted at Duolongchi, spread its wings and soared into the sky. After giving Chen Shi a look, Land Shark followed. They usually live in the back mountain, not here, and now they are going home. Dragonite glanced at Chen Shi, and when he saw the latter nodded, he immediately followed. Ko Jia. At this time, Gengar suddenly flew in front of Chen Shi and patted his big belly. Chen Shi smiled, I know you are also very powerful, and I will let you teach Duolong later. Quote. Zhang Gui nodded in satisfaction. Then, Chen Shi found Swampert, who was staying with his parents obediently. Pokémon. Swampert. Level 49 Elite Peak. Qualification. Champion. Features. Torrent. Gender. Male. Skills. Water Gun, Mud Shooting, Rockfall, Hold, Water Wave, Rockfall, Reckless, Water Cannon, Arm Hammer, Earthquake, Stomp, Rock Blockade, Pray for Rain, Dig Hole, Chop Tile, Bodybuilding, Ice Fist, Climb Waterfall, Water Stream Break. He patted the arm of the big guy in front of him and said, you have to work harder too. The little Dragonite that you used to protect behind you is now stronger than you. Quote. Lasu. Swampert nodded heavily. At this time, the king-level Swampert, the mother of Chen Shi Swampert, looked at the child, took out a stone from somewhere and handed it to the little Swampert. Chen Shi looked at the stone and shouted on the spot. This. Where did this come from? Chen Shi pointed at the stone with a mixture of blue and orange and a special texture, and asked hurriedly. The big Swampert scratched his head, not understanding why Xiao Shi was so excited all of a sudden. Grandpa Chen walked over slowly, took a look at the stone, and explained, this is a stone I collected when I was young. I just thought it looked good, but I didn't expect Swampert to like this stone very much. But I haven't found anything after studying it for so many years, so Swampert has been carrying it with him all the time. Is there anything wrong with this stone? Of course there is a problem. Chen Shi said excitedly. The data of this stone has already appeared in front of his eyes. Swampert Mega Stone, a stone that seems to be able to unlock Swampert's hidden potential. What the hell is a surprise? This is a surprise. There is no news about super evolution yet, and Dr. Blatino has not started to study it yet. The only one in this world who has this power is Corny's grandfather. But he only has one super evolution of Lucario, and he doesn't understand other super evolutions at all. Take the super stone, Chen Shi asked his grandfather. Grandpa, do you still have this stone? If you have, take them out, this is really important. Grandpa Chen nodded, there are still a few pieces, let Gardevoir take them. On the other side, Gardevoir heard what his grandfather said, and disappeared in an instant. Grandma Chen also came over and asked in confusion, little boy, do you know the function of this stone? Quote. Chen Shi's excitement calmed down, and after thinking for a while, he said, this thing is very important and powerful. Grandpa and Grandma, remember to collect this kind of thing secretly. It's not an exaggeration to say that this is a strategic item in the future. The two old people's eyes immediately became solemn. They all knew that their grandson was not a boaster, the person who spoke. It seems that this stone is more important than he thought. After a while, Gardevoir returned to the villa with a small wooden box. Grandpa Chen took a look at the box, and a touch of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. These are all kinds of strange things that your grandmother and I collected when we were young. Grandma Chen also sighed, as if she remembered her youth. But Chen Shi didn't have time to care about this now, so he walked forward to open the treasure chest of his grandparents. But the items inside almost dazzled Chen Shi's eyes, the king's certificate, the sharp claw, the Mega Evolution Stone, the key stone, and some messy things. Chen Shi didn't care about the other things for the time being, and took out all the key stones and Mega Evolution Stones. Counted, there were 3 key stones and 5 Mega Evolution Stones. The Mega Evolution Stones were Flame Chicken, Alakazam, Gengar, Beedrill, and one for the quasi-god Bangiras. Looking at these Mega Evolution Stones, Chen Shi felt a little sorry. The only ones that could be used now were Swampert and Gengar. The others were useless for the time being. Grandpa Chen asked, little boy, now it's time to tell Grandpa and Grandma what these stones are used for, right? Chen Shi smiled mysteriously and walked to Swampert with a key stone. Come on, Swampert, take this stone. Swampert scratched his head and took the Swampert Mega Evolution Stone without knowing why. Chen Shi held the key stone in his hand, and the blue superpower was attached to the key stone. Swampert, look into my eyes. Swampert also became serious and looked closely at the trainer's eyes. The two old men didn't know why, and the Pokémon around them also felt the serious atmosphere and quieted down. Chen Shi looked at Swampert, and somehow recalled the scene of their first encounter in his mind. At that time, his grandfather took him to find the water leaper, who had just left the larval stage and was working hard to train. Chen Shi walked up to it with a special water-leaping fish energy block and asked, "Water-leaping fish, are you willing to be my partner and travel with me? I will help you become stronger and take you to challenge all kinds of powerful enemies. I will take you to the highest stage in the world and let everyone cheer your name. No matter what danger we encounter, we will not abandon each other or give up. Are you willing?" The young water-leaping fish remembered his mother's words and nodded heavily at the boy squatting in front of him. The boy laughed and stretched out his fist in front of it. "Then, the contract is established." The water-leaping fish also clenched his fist and gently touched it with the boy's fist. Caw. Contract established. The bits and pieces of Chen Shi's relationship with Swampert slowly emerged between the man and the fish. Pull, tisk. Suddenly, Swampert roared and stretched out his super stone fist in front of Chen Shi. Ha, good. Chen Shi laughed loudly, and the colorful light emitted from his right hand holding the keystone collided heavily with Swampert's giant fist. Their minds merged together under the light emitted by the keystone. Swampert, Mega Evolution. Pull, tisk. The light of super evolution emerged from Swampert's hand and spread all over his body in an instant. The two old men looked at this scene in disbelief. Old man, this. The light of super evolution quickly dissipated, and a brand new Swampert appeared in front of everyone. Its body became larger, and the muscles all over its body bulged like an explosion. The black fins on its head were also stretched, and from a distance it looked like a pair of sharp blades. Super Swampert, come on. Pokémon. Mega Swampert. Level 49+5 Beginner Gym. Qualification. Champion. Features. Swimming freely. Gender. Male. Skills. Water gun, mud shooting, rockfall, hold, water wave, rockfall, reckless, water cannon, arm hammer, earthquake, stomp, rock blockade, rain prayer, digging, tile breaking, bodybuilding, ice fist, waterfall climbing, water stream breaking. Looking at the data in front of him, Chen Shi was very excited. He didn't expect that he could directly increase the level by 5. Directly from the peak of the elite to the beginner level of the gym. Mega Evolution is really powerful. Pull, tisk. Swampert's mother was stunned and ran to her son to look left and right. No, isn't Swampert the final evolution of our species? Why can you still evolve? I'm already a king level, but I'm still just Swampert. Why is this? Grandpa Chen excitedly pulled his grandson over and asked, Xiao Shi, what's going on here? Chen Shi felt his strength was rapidly depleting, and quickly released the keystone. Super Swampert immediately degenerated into Swampert. Looking at the changed Swampert, the two old men looked at each other and waited for their grandson's explanation. Chen Shi took a breath and said, this is called the keystone in my hand, and the one that Swampert had just now is the Swampert Mega Stone. It's also called the Swampert Mega Stone. As long as the trainer holds the keystone and the Pokémon holds a specific Mega Stone, they can undergo a short Mega Evolution after telepathy. The Pokémon's various stats will increase to a certain extent. For example, the original Swampert's characteristic was Torrent, but after Mega Evolution it became free and easy. You just saw that Swampert went from the late elite stage to the elementary level of the gym. This is my first Mega Evolution, and I'm not used to it yet. After practicing a few more times, the time for Swampert's Mega Evolution will be extended. Grandpa asked excitedly, then if I take this keystone and let my Swampert take the Macaw Stone, can it also be super evolved? Chen Shi's mouth twitched, scratched his head, and said euphemistically, this evolution will consume a lot of physical strength of the trainer. Grandma Chen on the side laughed out loud. She naturally understood what her grandson meant. Old man, you'd better not think about it. You still want to super evolve, don't just evolve ashes. Grandpa Chen sighed disappointedly, and was not annoyed when he heard Grandma Chen's words, but just sighed, I'm old, the future belongs to you young people. The mother of Swampert on the side naturally heard what Chen Shi said, and after a little disappointment, she also let it go. Patted her son's shoulder and was happy for it. Wah! Suddenly, Mrs. Hua Jia pulled Chen Shi and looked at him with burning eyes. Chen Shi lowered his head slightly, and Yibu and Dan looked at him with the same eyes. The meaning was self-evident. Mega evolution, I want one too. Chen Shi was a little embarrassed. He couldn't just say that you didn't have a mega evolution. After thinking for a while, he said, to mega evolution, you need to find a mega evolution stone. You don't have one now. The three Pokémon were a little disappointed, but they also understood that if the trainer had one, he would definitely not forget them. Chen Shi picked up Togepi and gave it a light head slap. You haven't even reached the final evolution, what are you thinking about mega evolution? Chajadui, I can't prepare in advance. Chen Shi smiled and said, you are the most reasonable. Togepi rolled his eyes, broke free from the trainer's arms, ran to Grandma Chen, pointed at his forehead and cried. Chajadui. Grandma Chen smiled and picked up Togepi and gently rubbed his forehead. It doesn't hurt, Grandma will rub it for you. Chajadu, yi. Togepi pointed at Chen Shi angrily, and then looked at Grandma aggrievedly. Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and he ignored the funny Togepi and gave instructions to Swampert. Follow your mother during this period, and remember not to forget the daytime training. I will come to check your training results on time, and remember to come to me directly if you need anything. Do you understand? Latut. Swampert nodded and agreed. Seeing this, Swampert's mother and King Nabo also took the little Swampert to the back mountain. Grandpa and Grandma's Pokémon also scattered and went back to their own homes. Glancing at Togepi unhappily, Chen Shi said loudly, Mrs. Waji, Yabe, let's go upstairs and sleep, and ignore that black-hearted guy. Mrs. Waji immediately followed, and Yabe no longer cared about his good sister and turned around and followed Chen Shi left. Togepi was dumbfounded, staring blankly at the three of them leaving. This script is not what I thought. Shouldn't you come to coax me, and then fail to coax me, and after paying the price of an ice cream, I will reluctantly forgive you? Why did you leave? Chajadui. Togepi was anxious, and hurriedly jumped off Grandma Chen and chased after him. The two old people looked at this scene and shook their heads and laughed. Grandma Chen suddenly sighed and said, Old man, you have to pay attention to the matter of the stone. She is right, it's not an exaggeration to say that thing is a strategic resource. Grandpa Chen agreed with a serious face. I understand, I'll start collecting them right away. Grandma Chen said worriedly, just collect them secretly, otherwise after this super evolution is exposed, someone will find out that we have a lot of super evolution stones. Our things are already coveted enough. If there is another super evolution, I'm afraid some people will be restless. Let's see who dares. Grandpa Chen narrowed his eyes and said sternly, I'm old, not dead. Whoever dares to lay a hand on this farm, I will chop off his claws. Grandma Chen glanced at her husband, what about your grandson? Why did you insist on letting Xiaoxi travel to Sinnoh a year ago instead of Hoenn or Kanto? Grandpa Chen's face suddenly became ugly when he heard this. Grandma Chen continued, we are old, it doesn't matter what happens. But Xiao is still young. We can't protect him forever, and he can't stay in this farm forever. Let's keep a low profile in the next 2 years. When Xiao grows up, it won't matter. Grandpa Chen thought of the talent of the dragon and nodded heavily. Then he laughed and scolded, this brat, he ordered me, an old man, around as soon as he came back. A smile also appeared on Grandma Chen's old face. She sighed and said, this era is not ordinary. All kinds of geniuses have emerged. Like the granddaughter of my old friend in Sinnoh. The son of the Zifuchi family in Hoenn, and the Mikuli in Luli. The Yulong family in Kanto also has an amazing descendant. I heard that the Silver Academy also has a girl who specializes in ice. Carlos, and the Galar region that has just been incorporated into the Alliance, have all had amazing geniuses. At this point, Grandma Chen paused and continued. I heard that the Alliance is preparing for a big event recently, the purpose is to cultivate outstanding talents from all over the world. I don't know what it's doing, it's so mysterious. Yes, Grandpa Chen also sighed, what a wonderful era. After a comfortable bath, Chen Shi lay on the bed, looking intoxicated. Chajadui, Bui, Togepi and Leafeon also lay beside him. As for Madame Waji, because she was a little bigger, he arranged her to live in the next room. Chen Shi said softly, you can't relax even when you get home. You have to complete your daily training on time. 1 Pokémon and 1 egg are fine. They are both wild Pokémon and know the importance of strength. There is no objection to the trainer's arrangement. At this time, Togepi gently poked Chen Shi's face with his little hand. Chajadui, can I really evolve too? Chen Shi rubbed its little head and whispered, of course you can. After all, when have I ever lied to you? Togepi thought carefully, although the trainer was sometimes unreliable, sometimes very jumpy, and always said something incomprehensible. But he really didn't fool Bo. Thinking of this, Togepi felt relieved. As long as he could evolve and become stronger, he wouldn't hold everyone back. Chen Shi's mind moved, and the data of Togepi and Leafeon appeared in front of him. Pokémon. Leafeon. Level 39 Advanced Peak. Qualification. Semi-Champion. Features. Chlorophyll. Gender. Female. Skills. Collision, Tail Shaking, Self-Sacrifice Collision, Leaf Blade, High-Speed Star, Bite, Call, Imitate, Parasitic Seed, Magic Leaf, Photosynthesis, Sunny Day, Hold, Ultimate Absorption, Leaf Blade, Grass Knot, Seed Machine Gun. Pokémon. Togepi. Level 28 Intermediate. Qualification. King of Heaven. Features. Heaven's Grace. Gender. Female. Skills. Call, Slap, Yawn, Finger Wave, Primal Power, Life Drop, Treasure, Act like a coquettish person. Leafeon didn't change much and was still stuck at Advanced Peak. As for Togepi, Chen Shi was immediately excited when he saw the last skill. Acting like a spoiled child is a transformation skill that reduces the opponent's attack. Of course, this is not the point. The point is that this is a fairy skill. When Chen Shi met Wa Bebe, he made a fairy energy block according to his memory from the game in his previous life. After all, Chen Shi knew that Wa Bebe was not a grass-type Pokémon, but a fairy-type Pokémon. Because Xerneas, the giant deer, was asleep, there was no fairy energy in the world, and these fairy-type Pokémon were classified into other types. And Chen Shi's approach was also a trick to see if he could use the energy block to awaken them. But Wa Bebe had been eating for more than half a year, and she had evolved into Lady Wajia, but there was no movement. Chen Shi thought it was useless, or that the energy block he made was wrong, so he didn't care. Besides, both Mrs. Waji and Pockby liked that kind of energy cube, so they didn't change it. I didn't expect Pockby to give him such a big surprise today. It seems that the name of Pockplane is destined to be known all over the world. Chajadui. Pockby saw Xiaoxi staring at it closely, and shyly covered his face with his short hands. Chen Shi's mouth twitched. You are blushing like a bubble teapot, how can I still have improper thoughts about you? Shaking his head, Chen Shi continued to lie down, thinking about the future. First of all, he needs to improve his strength as soon as possible. If he doesn't have some strength in the future, he won't be able to keep the farm at home. After all, the farm of Grandpa and Grandma is amazing, and all kinds of rare tree fruits are planted in it. What kind of lychee fruit and dragon fruit are there? They are all transplanted by the ancestors of the Chen family from generation to generation. The back mountain is even more special, with a medium-sized water stone vein. According to my grandfather, the mythical beast Suicune once lived in the pond in the back mountain for a long time. The water there has the effect of purifying filth after being contaminated with the breath of Suicune. There is a large area of rare medicinal herbs planted next to it, among which the most famous are 3 resurrection grasses. Grandpa and Grandma's powerful Pokémon such as Garchomp, Tyrannosaurus, and Lizard King all live there and guard the medicine garden. You can imagine how important that medicine garden is. After all, even the fruit forest is only guarded by one Pokémon, Bulbasaur. The second is the researcher's path. Chen Shi plans to continue on this path. Because with the identity of a researcher, you can get a lot of resources that you can't get at other times. And in this world, the status of researchers is also quite high. The doctors in various places are even more of a region's appearance. For example, when it comes to Kanto, the first thing everyone thinks of is Professor Oak. The appearance is directly full. Although Chen Shi is definitely not as good as others, relying on the memory of the previous life, not to mention the doctor, a top researcher will definitely be able to make it. This can bring considerable benefits to Chen Shi, such as a considerable amount of research funding every year. Even if you don't research anything this year, the league will continue to give you money next year. I heard from my grandfather that Dr. Otamaki in the Hoenn region has an astronomical annual research funding. Chen Shi was so itchy after hearing this. Chen Shi sighed, why is it so difficult to just want a quiet life? Bui, Chajadui. As if sensing the trainer's irritable mood, the two cute Leafeons came forward and rubbed him. Chen Shi looked at the worry in the eyes of the two little guys, and the softness in his heart was touched. But if you are here, I am not afraid of what the future will be like. Bui, Chajadui. The two cute little ones looked at each other and happily jumped into the arms of their own trainer. After playing with them for a while, Chen Shi stretched and walked to the computer to sit down. After logging onto the researcher forum, a lot of private messages came to him. It was him who published the paper on Leafeon and Glaceon some time ago. However, Chen Shi did not use his real name, but published it under his online name. What should I publish next? A series of Pokémon names flashed through Chen Shi's mind. Steelix, Claws, Magma, Rhydon, Electabuzz. These are Pokémon whose evolution methods have not yet been discovered. However, the first two require metal film and communication exchange, and the last three also require special props. Props are actually easy to get, but where can I find Pokémon? Chen Shi scratched his head, feeling a little helpless. It's a pity that Sun Eevee and Moon Eevee are not easy to get. The evolution of these two is different from that of Leafeon. It requires intimacy to reach the standard and upgrade in a special time period to evolve. Intimacy is really hard to figure out. How to prove its existence is a big problem. If you just rely on guesswork, those old guys who rely on their age won't admit it, and you will end up getting into trouble. After thinking for a long time, Chen Shi didn't have any good ideas, so he simply turned off the computer and threw himself on the bed. Let's get started, I'll start right away. Tomorrow I'll start my rural life. The next morning, a heart-wrenching scream was heard from the Chen family villa. Gaia, Zhang Gui, I've told you so many times, don't lick me so early in the morning. It's so numb. Hey, Ko Jia. Zhang Gui laughed out loud, and then flew out of the room immediately, hiding his merits and fame. Only Chen Shi lay on the bed with lifeless eyes. This is familiar. Since childhood, whenever Chen Shi slept in, Zhang Gui would reward him with a tongue lick. Can you imagine that feeling? It's like you were sleeping soundly, and suddenly a strong sense of numbness came, forcing you to turn on the machine. Who can stand this? Bui. Leaflet rubbed his sleepy eyes, not understanding what was going on. Why are you howling so early in the morning? And Pokébee was still sleeping soundly. Such a big noise didn't wake the little guy up. It was amazing. Chen Shi sighed and got angry when he saw the sleeping Dan next to him. He picked it up and shook it hard to let it feel the feeling of forced startup. Chajadui. Pokébee looked at Chen Shi in confusion, with a little expression as if asking, what's wrong? Chen Shi was about to say something to it, but when he thought about the fact that this little guy still had to rely on intimacy to evolve, he couldn't say anything. He could only force a smile and said, it's okay, it's just very late, it's time to get up. You can have an ice cream today. Chajadu, Yi. Little stars suddenly appeared in Pokébee's little eyes, and saliva flowed out from the corners of his mouth. Chen Shi rolled his eyes at it, put on his clothes, washed up, and went downstairs. In the living room on the first floor, Gardevoir was doing housework, while Madame Waji brought the breakfast prepared by Grandma to the table. Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen were both eating breakfast. Good morning, Madame Waji, and Gardevoir. Wah. Sanai. When Grandma Chen saw her grandson coming downstairs, a smile suddenly appeared on her face. Shi, come and have breakfast. Hey, okay. Chen Shi sat down and took a sandwich to eat. At this time, Grandpa Chen said, I had a brief negotiation with Mujin Boy yesterday. He agreed to our request, but he asked you to provide the specific location. They have to conduct a field investigation to determine the value. Chen Shi was slightly stunned, described the specific location of Dasha Valley to Grandpa, and then continued. Some of the elves there are quite powerful. Grandpa, remember to mention it, so that they won't blame us when they encounter danger. Grandpa Chen readily agreed. Chen Shi suddenly thought of something and said, Grandpa, there is a Togepi egg in there. Can you ask the Zifuchi family to bring it to me? Chen Shi was talking about the Togepi of Xiaoxia in the original book. That Togepi was brought out from the Dasha Valley, and it should still be an egg buried underneath. The old man looked at his grandson in confusion. don't you already have a Togepi? Why do you want to find another Togepi? Togepi, who had just walked downstairs, was dumbfounded when he heard this. The trainer actually wants to find another Togepi, so does that mean he doesn't want this Togepi anymore? When the little guy thought about being abandoned, he sat on the ground and cried loudly. When Leafeon walked past it, he glanced at it with disdain, not wanting to pay attention to this dramatic guy. Chen Shi glanced at Togepi and said expressionlessly, "It's acting like there's no ice cream today." Togepi stopped crying immediately. Pretending to be nonchalant, he walked to Chen Shi and winked playfully. Chen Shi carried it to the table, took the elf food prepared by his grandmother and placed it in front of it, and then explained to his grandfather. "I am going to give it to someone, not to cultivate it myself." Grandpa Chen nodded and agreed, without asking his grandson who he was going to give it to. And it was not a big deal. Pokébee elves were not valued, and the Zavoki family must not have such an egg. "Grandpa, is there anything I can help with on the farm now?" Grandpa Chen said slowly. "There is nothing to do on the farm at this time of year. The fruit trees have just been hanging, and they are not ripe yet. The 3 honeys were harvested yesterday, and the medicine garden in the back mountain does not need much care. As for milking the big milk tank, your grandmother and I milked it easily, and we don't need your help." Chen Shi was dumbfounded. Why was this different from what he imagined? Grandpa Chen looked at his grandson with a bit of amusement. "You will train your own Pokémon in the morning, and learn all kinds of breeding knowledge from me in the afternoon. Some important things at home. It's time to give you what you want." Quote. Chen Shi's eyes lit up, and he knew what Grandpa was talking about. As a top breeder certified by the Alliance, Grandpa is best at making various potions. Among them, the best ones are the rejuvenation potion that heals Pokemon's injuries, and the potential potion that can increase the potential of Pokemon when it evolves. Especially the potential potion, every bottle thrown out can attract people to scramble. This is also the foundation of the Chen family. And Grandma is best at customizing various energy blocks and food for Pokemon. And the energy blocks that Chen Shi's Dragonite and Swampert usually eat are customized by Grandma. He has been craving for Grandpa and Grandma's unique skills for a long time, but it's a pity that Grandpa said before that he was not good enough and couldn't learn them. Chen Shi also knew how much he was capable of, so he never mentioned it. Now that Grandpa took the initiative to bring it up, Chen Shi was naturally very happy. "Okay, look at your silly look." Quote. Grandpa Chen saw his grandson laughing and scolding. Chen Shi scratched his head and said with a smile, "Then I'll go to the back mountain to see Little Dragon and Swampert." Grandpa Chen agreed and continued to drink porridge slowly. Grandma Chen saw this and took a space backpack from her side and handed it to Chen Shi. "These are the energy blocks I made for Little Dragon. You can take them with you." "Thank you, Grandma." Chen Shi took it with a smile and went out with Leafeon and Togepi. There is a large pond on the top of the mountain behind Chen's house, surrounded by various rare medicinal herbs. On a big tree next to it, the Lizard King was leaning against the trunk and taking a nap. Chen Shi stepped forward and said, "Lizard King, can you help me train Leafeon?" Chen Shi pointed to the confused Leafeon next to him. "Bue." Quote. The Lizard King opened his eyes, glanced at Leafeon, and nodded slightly. The next moment, the Lizard King jumped down from the tree, and in a flash, the Lizard King and Leafeon disappeared. Chen Shi's mouth twitched slightly. What if he didn't pretend to be a cup of wine? Chajadui. Pokébee shook Chen Shi's hand, as if asking where Leafeon had gone. After all, the two little ones have been together since birth and have never been separated. Seeing that Leafeon had disappeared, Pokébee was still worried. Chen Shi rubbed its head and explained, "Leafeon went to train with that guy just now. You don't have to worry about its safety. You have to work hard too, little guy. You don't want to be pulled further and further away by Leafeon, right?" Pokébee thought about it, clenched his little fist and nodded heavily. Chajadui. When Chen Shi found the cave of Garchomp and Tyranitar, he saw Duolongchi looking up with dragon energy condensed at the corner of his mouth, and Tyranitar was saying something beside him. After a while, Duolongchi roared, and the meteorite wrapped in dragon energy in his mouth was shot into the sky. Chen Shi looked at it expectantly. This was one of the dragon's ultimate moves, Meteor Shower, so he naturally recognized it. But the next second, the meteorite did not scatter as Chen Shi imagined, but fell straight down, smashing a large hole. This is exactly the same as Xiaoji's round Garchomp in the animation. Puff, Chen Shi couldn't help laughing. Duolongqi turned his head quickly and saw that a dragon's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chia, Duolongqi instantly had the idea of hitting his head and dying, and felt that the dragon's life was gloomy. Why did Xiaoxi come not earlier or later, but at the most socially awkward time? How can I face Xiaoxi in the future? A smile flashed in Bao Feilong's eyes. It was very satisfied with Duolongqi as a student. After all, Dragon Star Cluster was a dragon-type ultimate move, how could it be learned so quickly? It was enough for Bao Feilong to be surprised that Duolongqi could shoot meteorites into the sky. It took it a long time to learn to do this. Chen Shi stepped forward and smiled. Do your best, Duolongqi. Duolongqi turned his head and dared not look at him. It was obvious that he was still upset about the embarrassing thing just now. Chen Shi comforted him. You have just started training with Bao Feilong, and you have already learned a new move. It's already amazing. Kia, Duolongqi looked like I didn't study much, don't lie to me. Okay, Chen Shi handed Duolong the backpack prepared by his grandmother. Quote, these are all your food. When you are done, come home and get more from me. Learn from Tyrannosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. I look forward to the moment when you finally transform. Duolongqi took the backpack and nodded seriously. Chen Shi said to Tyrannosaurus again, Sister Long, I am sorry to bother you. If you need anything, just tell me. Tyrannosaurus waved his paw and agreed. Anyway, I am bored at ordinary times, so it is not bad to teach this talented little dragon. Then I will leave first. Quote, after saying goodbye to Doronki and Tyrannosaurus, Chen Shi left the back mountain and planned to go home to supervise Togepi's training. But as soon as he got home, he found a tall windy dog lying in the living room, but his breath seemed very weak. Grandpa and Grandma were observing Windy Dog, and there was a pale and beautiful woman wearing a senior investigator's uniform next to him. At this moment, she was looking at Windy Dog with a worried look on her face. After hearing the sound of the door opening, the three of them turned their heads to look over. Seeing that it was their grandson, Grandpa and Grandma ignored it and continued to check Windy Dog's body. When Junsha Muzzy saw Chen Shi, she forced a smile on her pale face and greeted him. It's Xiaoxi, have you returned from your trip? You've grown a lot taller. Chen Shi also recognized this rare genius of the Junsha family, who was already a senior investigator at a young age. It's Sister Muzzy, what happened to Windy Dog, is it okay? Quote. Chen Shi walked forward and asked, while the data of Arcanine appeared in his eyes. Pokémon, Arcanine, level 67, late Quasi-King. Qualification, King. Gender, male. Features, Heart of Justice. Skills, Spark, Bite, Howl, Flame Wheel, Jet Flame, Stare, Hold, Slam, Speed, Flame Vortex, Charged Flame Attack, Sunny Day, Big Word Explosion, Stand. Chen Shi sighed secretly, worthy of being the genius of the Junsha family, so fierce. Grandpa Chen said at this time, Arcanine's injuries should have been treated. The reason why it hasn't healed yet is because there is a strong fire energy raging in its body, causing its own energy to riot, so it is so weak now. If it can't calm down this strong external energy, Arcanine will not be able to hold on for long. Hearing this, Junsha Muzzy's pale face suddenly became ugly. What? Chen Shi also looked at his grandfather in disbelief. Arcane. The energy of the fire-type Pokémon is rioting. Are you kidding me? This is Arcane. A pure fire-type Pokémon, even if it doesn't have the fire-attracting property, shouldn't be damaged like this by the fire-type energy. Grandpa Chen glared at his grandson and turned to Jun Shimuzi and asked. It should be a champion-level fire-type Pokémon that got hurt, right? Jun Shimuzi nodded with an unpleasant look on her face. It was hurt by it was only the champion-level Charizard that hurt it. What else can Chen Shi say? He can only sigh that the champion-level Pokémon is so powerful. It can make a Pokémon of the same family like this. Grandpa Chen suddenly realized, and did not ask how it was injured or where the champion-level Charizard came from. He just said to Jun Shimuzi. This Arden needs not the resurrection potion, but the energy potion and the calming potion. Energy potion is 5 million alliance coins, and calming potion is 3 million. Girl, do you want to use it? Of course I will. Jun Shimuzi agreed immediately. She didn't need this little money at all, but the potion. In fact, the price of top-level potions outside would only be higher, and it might even be doubled. The reason for this situation is that there are not many people in the world who can make top-level potions. What everyone lacks is not money, but potions and people who make potions. That's why the status of breeders is so high. After hearing the answer, Grandpa Chen said to Gardevoir, "Please help me bring potion boxes 53 and 74. Gardevoir disappeared with a teleportation, and soon came back with 2 boxes. "Come with me outside with Arcanine." Grandpa Chen took the 2 boxes and said. Jun Shimuzi immediately put the wind speed dog into the Pokeball and followed Grandpa out. Seeing this, Chen Shi also followed happily. When they reached the open space outside, Grandpa Chen signaled Jun Shimuzi to let the wind speed dog out. Then he opened box number 53, took out the energy-inducing potion inside and handed it to the mouth of the wind speed dog. After drinking it, immediately guide the violent energy in your body out of your mouth, understand? The wind speed dog raised its head with difficulty and looked at Jun Shimuzi. Seeing the latter agreed, it drank the potion in one gulp. After Grandpa Chen finished feeding, he immediately pulled Jun Shimuzi and Chen Shi, who was watching the fun, away from the wind speed dog. I saw the wind speed dog twisting its body in pain, and the red and violent flames faintly emerged from it. Seeing the wind speed dog in so much pain, Jun Shimuzi asked anxiously, "Mr. Chen, is this okay?" Grandpa Chen shook his head and explained, "It's okay, don't worry." Quote. Jun Shimuzi had no choice but to look at the wind speed dog with worry, hoping that it could survive. In the open space in the distance, the wind speed dog was already wailing in pain, and powerful fire energy was emanating from it. The temperature around it continued to rise. Finally, with a roar from the wind speed dog, the violent flames all gushed out of its mouth. Chen Shi was shocked and burst into a swear word. Because of the extremely high temperature coming at him, even though he was so far away, his skin was burned and hurt. Looking at the huge pillar of fire rising into the sky, Chen Shi called it abnormal. Now it finally understood why Grandpa said that the gap between the king and the champion was huge. Just a residual energy can burst out with such power. It's really awesome. Chapter 11. Windspeed Dog. The flames dissipated, and Jun Shimuzi ran forward anxiously. "How are you? Are you feeling better?" Feeling the trainer's inner worry, Windspeed Dog raised his head and rubbed Jun Shimuzi intimately. At this time, Grandpa Chen came over and handed another tranquilizer to Jun Shimuzi. "Feed it first." Muzzy took it and fed it to Windspeed Dog. After a while, the breath of Windspeed Dog gradually stabilized and fell into a deep sleep. Jun Shimuzi finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Grandpa Chen gratefully. "Mr. Chen, thank you so much this time." Grandpa Chen waved his hand. "Come in and tell me if you have anything to say." "Okay." Muzzy took back Windspeed Dog and followed him into the villa. In the living room, Grandma Chen made a cup of tea for everyone. Asked, "Girl, what's the matter with Arcanine's injury? If a champion-level existence attacks you, you shouldn't survive, right?" Jun Shimuzi sighed. Recently, 2 underground organizations suddenly emerged in the Hoenn region, one called Team Magma and the other Team Ocean. When Chen Shi heard these 2 names, he immediately understood that they were the 2 idiots, Qiansong and Shuiwutong. Then he heard Muzzy say, "We received news some time ago that Team Magma was found in Yantu Mountain." President Miyazaki immediately ordered Senior Mura to lead the team to wipe out Team Magma. But I didn't expect that the leader of Team Magma actually has a champion-level Pokémon and 3 top-level fire Pokémon. My Arcanine was severely injured because of the aftermath of the battle between Senior Mura and the leader of Team Magma. Chen Shi's mouth twitched. After all this time, it still suffered the aftermath. Lava Team. Grandpa Chen thought for a moment and confirmed that he had never heard of this name before. It should be a force that has risen recently. Grandma Chen said with concern. "Hey, girl, you have to be careful when you go on missions in the future. When encountering a battle of this level, it is best to run as far as possible. This is not something you can intervene in for the time being." Muzzy nodded slightly. "I understand, Grandma Chen." Grandpa Chen instructed. you'd better take the wind speed dog to Joey for a check. If there is no problem, don't let the wind speed dog fight again within half a month. Come to me if there is any problem. Junsha Muzzy heard it and hurriedly said, I'll go now. I will transfer the money to you later, thank you, Senior Chen. After thanking Grandpa Chen, Junsha Muzzy rushed out of Chen Shi's house in a hurry. Grandma Chen looked at the untouched tea and smiled helplessly. It's the usual style of the Junsha family. Chen Shi then asked, Grandpa, is this champion really that strong? Just the aftermath of the battle can make the Quasi-King wind speed dog like this. Grandpa Chen was silent for a while, and suddenly sighed. It's time to tell you something now. Chen Shi immediately pricked up his ears and listened carefully. Ordinary Pokémon, whether it's Caterpillar or Quasi-God Garchomp, their upper limit is actually the peak of the king. When reaching the peak of the king, the Pokémon has actually reached its limit in terms of physical fitness and energy intensity. If you want to continue to break through, you have to break your own limits. Perseverance, potential, and resources are indispensable. But if you break through, then the data of this Pokémon will far exceed the king level. The gap between the two is like a chasm. Grandpa Chen said regretfully. My Lizard King, Tyrannosaurus, and Venusaur. And your grandmother's Garchomp was at the peak of the king long before you were born. After so many years, they are still at the peak of the king. Chen Shi widened his eyes, isn't that at least 16 years? The two old men nodded. Grandpa Chen continued, what they lack is not perseverance or resources, but potential. If there is no great opportunity, they will probably stay at this level for their entire lives. So that's how it is. Chen Shi nodded thoughtfully. Then he thought of Little Dragon. Don't worry about this guy. That legendary talent is definitely the highest he has ever seen. It is not difficult to break through the champion level. Swampert is also a champion level talent, so Chen Shi is not worried. Although Togepi is only a king potential now, it can evolve twice. If it is combined with potions and top-level light stones, it is likely to directly reach the champion potential later. Chen Shi is not worried either. But even though Madame Waji drank the potential potion made by her grandfather and evolved with the top-grade light stone when she evolved into Yeti, she is still only a semi-champion. Same as Garchomp and the others. And Leafeon is also a semi-champion. Will they be stuck at the top of the king in the future? Thinking of this, Chen Shi shook his head suddenly. No matter what, he must find a way to improve their potential. He will never allow any partner to fall behind. Either don't capture it, or if you capture it, you must be responsible to the end. This is Chen Shi's attitude towards Pokémon. Grandma Chen said with a smile. When your grandfather Swampert was pregnant, I don't know how much your grandfather worried. How many herbs did he use to make it give birth to your Swampert with extraordinary potential? I just don't want you to suffer in this regard. But I didn't expect that you actually picked up a little dragon with much higher potential than Swampert. Chen Shi felt warm in his heart. He was just an orphan in his previous life, and he lost his parents early in this life. But under the care of his grandparents, he has everything that others have, and even better. This makes him feel a sense of happiness he has never had before. This is probably what family is. Grandpa and Grandma, don't worry, I will definitely not let you down. Chen Shi solemnly promised. The two old people looked at each other, smiled and said nothing more. By the way, why is Madame Wajia missing? Chen Shi looked around but didn't see Madame Wajia. She went to the backyard to train. She is such a self-aware child. Grandma Chen replied. Chen Shi suddenly realized and then stared at Togepi in his arms. The meaning was self-evident. Togepi saw that he couldn't escape and could only nod his head resignedly. Chen Shi smiled and carried it to the training ground in the backyard. Madame Wajia was wearing a gravity bracelet and belt, training high-speed stars and energy balls on a target in the distance. Madame Wajia is actually a very powerful Pokémon. Her special attack is 112 points and her special defense is 154. Madame Wajia is weak in physical strength and defense, so Chen Shi usually lets her train her physical strength with weights. Chen Shi's mind moved, and all the data about Madame Wajia appeared in his eyes. Pokémon. Lady Flower Clean. Level. 45, Elite Intermediate. Qualification. Semi-Champion. Feature. Flower Curtain. Gender. Female. Skills. mysterious guardian, photosynthesis, prayer, petal dance, magic leaf, grass field, grass knot, hold on, high-speed star, baton, sunny day, seed bomb, energy ball, solar beam, substitute, charming voice. Chen Shi rubbed his eyes and looked at the last skill of Lady Flower Clean. This is also a fairy skill. Chen Shi hurried over and asked, Lady Flower Clean, stop for a moment. Did you learn a new skill today? Lady Flower Clean turned to look at her trainer, hesitated for a moment and nodded in acknowledgement. She did learn a skill today and wanted to get familiar with it. But unexpectedly, she could no longer use it after using it once. She didn't understand what was going on, so she hesitated when facing the trainer's questions. Chen Shi said excitedly, can you use it for me to see? Mrs. Hua Jia was a little embarrassed and told him the details. Chen Shi touched his chin and thought, how could it be used once and then it can't be used? It doesn't make sense. That's right. Chen Shi's eyes lit up. There is no fairy energy in the world now. And the fairy energy in Mrs. Hua Jia's body was awakened by him using the energy block. It was not much to begin with. After using the fairy skill once, there was no energy to replenish it. Now it is naturally unusable. Thinking of this, Chen Shi ran back in a hurry, leaving only Mrs. Hua Jia and Togepi in the same place. The two Pokémon sighed slightly, and then each did their own thing. Obviously, they have become accustomed to Xiao's occasional madness. Soon, Chen Shi ran back with his space backpack. He took out the energy cube that Madame Hua Jia usually ate, handed it to her, and said expectantly, come on, eat it quickly, and see if you can use it after eating. Madame Hua Jia did not hesitate, and took it and ate it slowly. This made Chen Shi anxious. My sister, can you be faster? If you eat it in small bites like this, how long will it take to finish it? But Chen Shi did not dare to disturb her, and could only wait anxiously. Madame Hua Jia usually hated others disturbing her when she was eating. When she was eating, Madame Hua Jia did not even dare to mess with the silly Swampert. After all, it was a four-fold weak grass. After a while, Madame Hua Jia felt that there was an extra energy in her body, which was very friendly, as if this was the power she should have mastered. But she did not care for the time being, and Xiao Shi beside her was almost dying of anxiety. She looked a little funny. Wah, it's okay, Xiao Shi. Chen Shi said in surprise. Then use it quickly and see. Madame Hua Jia pondered for a while, and then she made a pleasant sound with pink energy. Yes, that's it, it's right. Chen Shi clenched his fist and waved it fiercely. Fairy type, the 18th attribute that pulled the dragon-type Pokémon off the altar. Now he actually got it out in advance. How could he not be excited? Wah, Madame Hua Jia reminded at this time that she couldn't use it again. Chen Shi didn't care, stretched out his hand and patted Madame Hua Jia's hand, and said seriously. You must eat more energy blocks, so that you can replenish that kind of energy. You are not a grass-type Pokémon, you are a new type of Pokémon. This attribute is called fairy type. You will be the new generation of dragon killer in the future. Madame Hua Jia suddenly realized after hearing Xiao Shi's explanation. No wonder that strange power made me so close. It turns out that I am not a grass-type Pokémon, but a fairy type. But when she heard the last sentence of Xiao Shi, Mrs. Hua Jia was shocked, rolling eyes. What dragon killer? That sounds so bad. Then, Chen Shi thought for a while and said, you only need to train those few moves well. Just the grass field, grass knot, energy ball, solar beam, wish, and stand. After all, grass is not your main skill. When the fairy energy in your body gradually increases, your fairy skills will slowly awaken, and that is the skill you should focus on training. Mrs. Hua Jia nodded and agreed. Just listen to the trainer in this regard. You continue to train, I won't bother you. By the way, don't let that little guy be lazy. Chen Shi pointed to the little guy wearing a gravity device on the eggshell and running hard. Wah, Mrs. Hua Jia agreed with a smile. Now Togepi doesn't have many skills, and there is actually nothing to train. He can only focus on training his physical strength. The air slash and fairy skills in the future are her main means of attack. Then Chen Shi watched the two Pokémon train while thinking about fairy things. It is definitely not a coincidence that Togepi and Lady Waji both learned a fairy skill overnight. Maybe Xerneas is about to wake up, and the fairy energy between heaven and earth is reviving. Xerneas' awakening means that Yveltal is about to wake up. It may not be a good thing if that silly bird wakes up. However, it is none of his business. With Zygarde, if the silly bird dares to cause death on a large scale, it will definitely face Zygarde's judgment. Chen Shi feels that the Kalos region is already very good, with the kind Xerneas and the Order Supervisor Zygarde. Look at Hoenn, Chen Shi doesn't even want to say it. The three fools of Hoenn in the previous life were the most famous. As long as one of the flying and the fathead wakes up, the other will also wake up. Then I woke up and started fighting, and then I was beaten up by Rayquaza, and then I ran back home to sleep in shame. Now the Magma team and the Aqua team have also emerged, and I don't know how long I can live in peace. Next to the farm villa, Chen Shi was lying under a tree and taking a leisurely nap. Next to it was a newly built garden, where Madame Wagia was carefully tending to her flowers. Chen Shi had already spent half a month of leisurely days. During this half month, he went to help his grandparents milk Milkykin in the morning, and occasionally checked on the training of his Pokémon. In the afternoon, he followed his grandfather to learn various pharmacological knowledge. Every day was simple and fulfilling. This is the right life, don't you think, Madame Wagia? Madame Wagia rolled her eyes at Chen Shi and continued to take care of her garden. Watching the flower seeds that she had collected from all over the place gradually grow and bloom. Madame Wagia couldn't stop her joy in her heart. Such days are really good. And Chen Shi's Pokémon have made great progress in strength during this period. With the previous accumulation, Duronyx made rapid progress and directly reached level 56. Swampert and the others also failed to calm down because they had been traveling and fighting before. After half a month, everyone has made some progress. Swampert has broken through the gym level and is now level 52, Lady Flower is level 48, and Leafeon is level 43. Togepi has made the most progress and is already level 35, but unfortunately he still hasn't evolved. He is now sleeping upstairs. Suddenly, Gardevoir teleported in front of Chen Shi. Sana, little boy, your grandpa is calling you over. Chen Shi scratched his head in confusion, not understanding why his grandpa was looking for him. Then just take me there. Gardevoir nodded gently, walked up and grabbed Chen Shi's arm. The next moment, Chen Shi's eyes blurred, and he was already in the living room on the first floor. At this time, Grandpa and Grandma were talking to a handsome silver-haired boy. Seeing Chen Shi, Grandma Chen waved, Xiao Shi, come here quickly, this is the heir of the Zifuchi family. You young people should get to know each other and visit each other more often. Chen Shi suddenly realized that this was the famous fortune-giving boy, Diamond King Laowu. Dao stood up and stretched out his hand to Chen Shi. Hello, I am Zifuchi Daiwu. You should be the genius breeder Chen Shi from 2 years ago, right? I have heard of you for a long time. Chen Shi looked at the nobleman in front of him, smiled softly, and stretched out his hand to shake hands with Daiwu. What genius? It's all nonsense outside. Mr. Daiwu doesn't need to care. Your name has become a household name recently. Congratulations on winning the championship of this year's Caillou conference. Grandma Chen smiled and said, okay, you two young people speak in a serious manner, just like us old men. Come over for tea. The two agreed happily. Daigo took a sip of the tea in front of him, and after savoring it, he exclaimed. What a good tea. Chen Shi introduced, these teas are all carefully cultivated by my grandmother. If you like, Mr. Daigo, you can take some before you leave. Then I will be very respectful. Daigo smiled and agreed. I came here this time to complete the transaction between our two families. We have completed the survey of Dasha Valley, and it is indeed the same as the intelligence said. The value of it is very important to our Devon company. Thank you for the information provided by Senior Chen. Daigo paused, and then said, I have brought the different colored iron dumbbells and cultivation methods you proposed, as well as 2 top-grade light stones. As he said, Daigo took out a luxury ball and opened it, come out and meet your future trainer. Quote. Beta. There is a crown on the head of the iron dumbbell, it also has a long torso, and a huge claw on the hip. Its head is almost round, embedded in the ball and socket joint at the front of its torso, with a huge red eye in the middle. This iron dumbbell is indeed silver and shining, and it is looking at Chen Shi at this moment. And all the data about the iron dumbbell also appeared in front of Chen Shi. Pokémon. Iron dumbbell, shining. Level. 17, late elementary level. Qualification. Semi-champion. Features. Eternal pure body. Gender. None. Skills. Impact, slam, mind hammer. Looking at the data in front of him, Chen Shi was very satisfied. The initial form is the qualification of a semi-champion, and it is almost certain to reach the champion level after training. Hello, Iron Dumbbell, I will be your trainer from now on. Quote. The Iron Dumbbell seemed to sense something and flew forward to rub against him. Chen Shi smiled and touched his head. Dao on the side seemed a little surprised. I didn't expect this kid to agree with you so quickly. Many people in our Zifuchi family wanted to subdue it, but the kid didn't like any of them. Really, Chen Shi was a little surprised. Maybe this is fate. Daigo didn't comment, opened his backpack and took out 2 small boxes, a manual, and a Pokémon egg with the same pattern as the eggshell of Togepi. This is the cultivation manual of Iron Dumbbell, 2 top-grade light stones, and Pokémon egg, all of which are given to you. As for the ore for Iron Dumbbell's growth, someone will send it to you later. Quote. Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect to get 2 top-grade light stones. But this is just right. Both Togepi can be arranged. Then he took a look at Togepi's Pokémon egg. Pokémon. Togepi unhatched. Level. 0. Qualification. King. Gender. Female. Skills. Desire. Healing bell. Treasure. It has good potential, if you cultivate it well and use the top-grade light stones to evolve it to the champion level. Grandpa Chen said, you paid such a high price. Is it for some fossil resurrection technology? That's right. Daigo sighed, it's a pity that we have encountered a bottleneck. But now with the appearance of Dashigu, I believe we will soon have a constructive breakthrough. Quote. Chen Shi recalled that the fossil resurrection technology seemed to rely on the dream energy of the dream candle. I don't know how far Devon has researched, but it has nothing to do with him. He has already got what he wants, and that's enough. Anyway, they will figure it out sooner or later, so Chen Shi won't bother with it. Just then, an anxious voice came from outside. Uncle Chen, it's not good. A Pokémon is attacking Green Shade Town, go and have a look. Pokémon are attacking Green Shade Town. The 4 of them were startled and hurriedly got up and went out. Not far from the villa, a middle-aged man ran towards them anxiously. Chen Shi knew him. He was Uncle Buka, a resident of Green Shade Town, and he had a good relationship with Chen Shi's family. Grandpa Chen hurried forward to ask, what's wrong? Why did I hear you shouting that Pokémon are attacking Green Shade Town? Buka took 2 breaths and replied, yes, a group of Boscadora ran out of the Ka Green Tunnel and attacked everyone they saw. The mayor and Miss Junsha can't stop this group of Pokémon at all. Uncle Chen, can you help me? Grandpa Chen's face sank. Why would the Boscadora tribe attack Green Shade Town? But now is not the time to think about this. Grandpa Chen made a prompt decision. Garv, go and bring Tyranitar and Garchomp over here. Sanai, Garv is still so efficient. In less than a minute, Tyranitar, Garchomp and Chen Shi's Doran were brought over. Grandpa Chen was about to step forward, but was stopped by his grandson. Grandpa, I'll take them with me, you take a rest. Grandpa Chen was stunned, and smiled with relief at his grandson's determined eyes. Hurry up. Okay, Chen Shi said, and came to Tyranitar, saying, I'm going to trouble you again. Tyranitar didn't say anything, but just leaned down and motioned him to come up. Chen Shi smiled and jumped onto Tyranitar's broad back. Wait, I'll go too. Daigo said at this time. Chen Shi was stunned, then nodded and agreed, come up quickly. As he said that, he stretched out his hand to Daigo. Daigo looked at his hand in front of him, and suddenly he felt a different emotion in his heart. Okay, in Green Shade Town, near the Kalu Tunnel, 7 Boscadoras and more than 20 Kadoras were wreaking havoc. Mr. Nakajima, the mayor of Green Shade Town, and 3 Ginses were fighting with their Pokémon. Arcane, use Sunny Day. One of the smart Ginses immediately commanded his Arcanine to use Sunny Day. The surrounding area suddenly became hot. Jet flames. Ooh. However, this also completely angered the Boscadora tribe. I saw that the mouths of the Boscadora behind them suddenly condensed steel energy. Oh no, it's a cannon beam, use it quickly to hold it. Mr. Nakajima shouted in horror. Junsha and the trainers who came to help spontaneously reacted and quickly asked their Pokémon to hold it. Several blue-white beams of light were shot out by Boscadora, and the powerful shock wave turned everything along the way into debris. Boom! With a huge roar, only Flame Chicken could barely stand in Green Shade Town. The other Pokémon fell to the ground, obviously losing their combat effectiveness. Nakajima smiled bitterly. How can this Boscadora tribe be so strong? Unfortunately, Boscadora would not give him time to sigh, and condensed steel energy in his mouth again. Run! Nakajima shouted, took back his 3 Pokémon and was about to escape. The trainers around also ran away in fear. Just then, a voice appeared in the sky. Dinobot, Garchomp, spray flames. Metagrow, let's use cannons too. 2 blazing flames and cannons gushed out, instantly overwhelming Boscadora's cannons. Boom! The explosion this time was much louder than the previous one. The 6 Boscadoras were directly hit hard by this blow, and they fainted in a pit that was about 5 meters deep and more than 10 meters wide. Chen Shi quickly said to Daigo, let Metagrobot clean up the surrounding Kadora. We can't let them destroy it anymore. No problem. Daigo agreed directly. Hey, oh. At this time, a 3-meter-tall steel giant roared at its fallen companion and was about to attack again. Chen Shi frowned. Land Shark, crack the tiles, let him calm down first. Land Shark snorted, since you are so sensible, I will give you a favor. Land Shark flew straight to Boscadora, and the fighting energy on its claws condensed, and hit Boscadora heavily. Boscadora was directly smashed dozens of meters away by this terrifying blow, but it was able to stand up. This surprised Chen Shi a little, as this Boscadora was just a beginner. It was able to stand up after being hit by the top-level king-level Garchomp. Could it be that your 4 times weaker fighting skills are fake? Come again. Garchomp didn't tolerate its bad habits, and smashed Boscadora from top to bottom. Its whole body was embedded in the soil by this terrifying force, and the entire land around it was torn into pieces. And this time, it couldn't stand up either. On the other side, Daigo's Metagross also hit Kadora with 1 punch, and it was already dead at this time. After the Tyranitar fell, Chen Shi and Daigo got off its back and sighed slightly at the mess around them. At this time, Mr. Nakajima came over and said gratefully, it turned out to be Xiaoxi and Mr. Daigo. This time, thanks to you. If it weren't for your help, I don't know how many people would be injured this time. Chen Shi waved his hand. Mr. Nakajima, don't say that. I am also a member of Green Shade Town. How can you sit back and do nothing when your home is destroyed? Daigo also said, as a qualified trainer, I will not stand idly by when encountering such a thing. Chen Shi glanced at the group of Boscadora and was a little puzzled. Mr. Nakajima, why did the Boscadora group suddenly attack Green Shade Town? They are not violent Pokémon. Daigo was also puzzled. He had a Boscadora himself and knew that what Chen Shi said was true. This group is not a violent Pokémon. There is no special reason why they would not attack humans so wantonly. Nakajima snorted, it's still those Pokémon hunters. They stole the child of the leader of the Boscadora and a large number of Kokodoras. How could they not be angry? We have suffered an unprovoked disaster. Chen Shi and Daigo suddenly realized that this was the case. It was not surprising. However, how should we deal with these Boscadoras? Looking at the large group of Kokodoras and Boscadoras around them, the 3 of them fell silent. When the 3 were thinking about how to deal with the Boscadora tribe, a Miss Junsha came over and said, Mayor Nakajima, we received the news. The group of Pokémon hunters were caught in Kana's city, and now Kokodora is being rushed here. Nakajima was overjoyed. Really? That's great. Now as long as we return Kokodora to them, I believe they will retreat soon. We don't have to worry about dealing with the problem. Chen Shi scratched his head, feeling a little amused. So this group of people ran to the other side, and Green Shade Town really suffered an unprovoked disaster. Daigo was very angry. This group of people is really too arrogant. After committing such a big crime, they dared to run to Kana's city. Chen Shi was silent, probably to sell the stolen goods. Kana's city has a large black market, and Pokémon hunters probably want to get rid of Kokodora as soon as possible. Mayor Nakajima said at this time, Xiaoxi and Mr. Daigo. Can you temporarily watch over these Boscadoras to prevent them from waking up and causing trouble? I also need to deal with the follow-up matters. No problem. ×2. Chen Shi and Daigo said in unison. Thank you. Mayor Nakajima bowed slightly and then left quickly. This time Chen Shi had time to take a look at Daigo's Metagross. Pokémon. Metagross Shiny. Level 58 Late Gym. Qualification. Quasi-Legendary. Feature. Eternal Pure Body. Gender. None. Skills. Impact, Telekinesis, Metal Claws, Bullet Fist, Telekinetic Hammer, Arm Hammer, Slam, Psychic Power, Electromagnetic Levitation, Cannon Lightning Cannon, Comet Fist, Iron Wall, High-Speed Movement, Claw Grinding, Hold, Thunder Fist, Ice Fist, Earthquake, Stomp, Reflection Wall, Light Wall, Rock Slide. So strong. Chen Shi couldn't help but sigh. The quasi-legendary qualifications are the highest Chen Shi has ever seen except for the Dragonite. No wonder in the previous life anime, Daigo's Metagross could fight with Kyogre. It's really powerful. Daigo smiled and said, your Duolongchi is not bad either. Chen Shi was a little surprised. Now the Galar region has just been incorporated into the alliance, and the news about the quasi-god Dragonite has not spread yet. I didn't expect Daigo to recognize it at a glance. But, your Duolongchi seems to be a little different from what I saw in the information. Chen Shi explained, my Duolongchi is a different color. But when he was a Duolongchi, he was not much different from the ordinary Duolongchi. It's just that the patterns on the head and abdomen are slightly different. So that's it. Daigo understood immediately, and then a fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. Do you want to have a battle? Let my Metagross and your Duolongchi. Quote. Chia. Durongchi looked at Chen Shi expectantly, the meaning was self-evident. Wait a minute. After we solve the problem of the Boscadora tribe, we will find a place to fight. Chen Shi thought for a while and replied. He actually wanted to try to see how big the gap was with a top genius like Daigo. No problem. Daigo agreed immediately. Suddenly, a noise came. The two hurriedly looked over and saw that the leader of the Boscadora had actually woken up and was struggling to crawl out of the ground. Chen Shi was a little dumbfounded. Is this Boscadora so tough? Woke up so quickly. Lurabite was unhappy. This guy didn't give me face. The fighting energy on his claws condensed and he was going to go up and hit him. Chen Shi hurriedly stopped him. Wait a minute, Leebite, I'll talk to it. Quote. Griffin gave up and followed Chen Shi to Boscadora. Boscadora looked at Garchomp with fear, as if facing a formidable enemy. It was this powerful Pokémon that defeated him in 2 moves. I don't know what they mean by this. Boscadora, your children and tribesmen have been captured by Pokémon hunters and are now on their way back. Please stop destroying them. We will send them back safely. Boscadora was stunned, looking like you didn't lie to me. Chen Shi explained. Why should I lie to you when this is the case? If your children and tribesmen can't come back, you can continue to destroy them. I will never stop you. Boscadora thought about it with his big head, and it was indeed true. Now that he is a prisoner of others, there is no need for others to lie to him. Hey, when will my children and tribesmen come back? Soon, they will definitely come back today. I will wait here with you. Boscadora gave up and closed his eyes to recover his strength. Dao, do you have any healing spray with you? I want to treat these big guys. Dao was a little embarrassed. I came to trade with you today, so I didn't bring these things. Hearing this, Chen Shi said to Duolongchi, please go back and get some healing spray, and then get some general energy cubes. By the way, bring Madame Wajia here too. After that, Chen Shi took out Madame Wajia's luxury ball and handed it to Duolongchi. Kia. Duolong took the luxury ball and immediately flew home. After that, Chen Shi and Daiwu chatted casually. Did you meet any noteworthy opponents when you participated in the Caillou conference? Daigo thought for a moment and replied, it's okay. There are indeed a few good opponents, but they didn't put too much pressure on me. In fact, there are many geniuses who will not participate in the Caillou conference because they don't need to prove anything. For example, you, and Mikali from Luli City. I also participated because of the request of my old man at home. Chen Shi shook his head. I just came back from a trip to Sinnoh and didn't have the opportunity to participate. Sinnoh. Daigo's eyes lit up. I heard that there are many ancient ruins in Sinnoh. There must be a lot of rare stones, right? Chen Shi was a little speechless. It was indeed that stone maniac Daigo. When it comes to Sinnoh, the first thing that comes to mind is stones. However, he still replied, there are indeed many ruins. I have a friend who likes these very much, and I have also learned a little bit about them. Friends. Daigo didn't know what he thought of, and his eyes were a little dim. Then he hesitated and asked, are we friends? Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. I thought we were friends for a long time. Dao was stunned and smiled with relief. You were right, we are friends for a long time. Just when Chen Shi reached out and pulled him onto the Dragonite. Why, do you usually have few friends? Daigo's eyes darkened when he heard this. You also know that I am the heir of the Zifuchi family. Since I was a child, I have been surrounded by people who flatter me for the sake of benefits. Where can I find friends? At this point, Daigo asked, what about you? Your grandparents are both top breeders, you should be about the same as me. Chen Shi thought about it carefully and suddenly fell silent. It seems to be true. He has a mature soul since he was a child, so he naturally understands that those people are just approaching him for the sake of benefits. He really doesn't seem to have many friends. Except for a severe choice-making patient in Sinnoh. Seeing him silent, Daigo immediately understood. The two looked at each other, sighed softly, and then laughed out loud for some reason. Meta. The Metagross on the side was also happy for Daigo. As Daigo's initial partner, Metagross naturally understood Daigo's loneliness. Now he finally made his first friend, and Metagross smiled with satisfaction. It felt like a silly kid had finally grown up. Oh, right, Chen Shi suddenly said, can you tell me? Have you reached that stage in your research on fossil resurrection? If it involves commercial secrets, just pretend I didn't ask. Dao waved his hand indifferently, this is not a secret. We are not the only one researching fossil resurrection technology, but unfortunately they are all stuck on life energy. We all agree that it may be that the life energy is not enough, so the resurrection failed. Is that so? Chen Shi was silent for a while, and smiled, then as a friend, I will give you a message. Dao was a little confused, what is the message? Is there a second Dashigu? Chen Shi rolled his eyes, there is only one Dashigu, what are you thinking? What I want to tell you is that your research direction is wrong. Fossil resurrection requires the help of Mengmengju's dream energy, from virtual to real, to truly revive. Forced infusion of life energy will not work. Even the god of life in the Carlos region can't do it. Dao was stunned. He didn't expect Chen Shi to say such a shocking news. This is a technology that countless researchers in their family have been studying day and night for so long. Now Chen Shi told him that the direction of your research was wrong from the beginning. Even if you study deeply, it is impossible to successfully revive the fossil elves. How could Daigo not be confused when all their achievements for so long were denied at once? Daigo trembled and said, are you telling the truth? How could it be false? But I don't know the specific steps. I only know that it takes the power of Mengmengju to succeed. You need to study the rest by yourselves. Daigo walked back and forth excitedly, enough, that's enough. As long as the direction you set is correct, we will definitely be able to successfully revive the fossil elves soon. He didn't think that Chen Shi was lying to him, because there was really no need. He is not a researcher and doesn't like fossils. Why lie to him? Not only is there no benefit, but it will also offend Devon Company. Chen Shi has no need to lie to him. Fossil elves. Daigo waved his hand fiercely. When he thought of the fossil elves being successfully resurrected, he wanted to jump 3 times on the spot. For Daigo, who has loved all kinds of stones since childhood, this news is too important. Although there are also a large number of fossil elves in Dasha Valley, they are not successfully resurrected after all. This means something different. Looking at the excited Daigo, Chen Shi shook his head helplessly. He told Daigo this news, and he also had his own considerations. Daigo and his father both liked to collect all kinds of stones, so he must have collected a lot of super evolution stones. After all, in the previous life animation, Daigo was a famous boy who gave money, and he would give a piece to every trainer with good talent. It can be seen that they must have a lot of super evolution stones. Now I do them a favor, and maybe we can cooperate in super evolution in the future. After all, super evolution is a matter of great importance, and Chen Shi and his grandparents can't bear the pressure of the alliance. At that time, the Alliance will find a reason to ask you to hand over the Super Evolution Stone, so will you hand it over or not? So Chen Shi wanted to pull Devon Company to the same front, so that everyone could work together to make a living. Most importantly, Chen Shi still trusted Daigo and his father's character. But it's definitely not possible now. When Chen Shi has the strength of a king and the power to protect himself, it will be time for Super Evolution to come out. At this time, Duo Longqi was holding a space backpack and the luxury ball is back. Chen Shi took the luxury ball and opened it. Wah! A flash of red light passed, and Madame Hua Jia appeared in front of him. Madame Hua Jia, please use the green grass field to treat these big guys. Wah! Madame Hua Jia readily agreed, and with a wave of her hands, the grass on the ground continued to grow, recovering the injuries of this Boscadora. Chen Shi also took out the healing spray to treat Boscadora and Kadora. Soon, these big guys woke up. Under the restraint of the leader Boscadora, they all calmed down and did not cause damage. Finally, after waiting for more than half an hour, Ajunsha rode a big king swallow from the sky. She didn't say anything nonsense, poured out more than 30 Pokeballs from her bag and opened them, and Kadora appeared in front of everyone. One of the Kokadora, which was larger than its kind, cried out excitedly and ran to the leader, Boscadora. Kuo. The worry in Boscadora's eyes finally faded, and he looked at Chen Shi with gratitude. Chen Shi said seriously, you must protect these little guys in the future. It would be bad if they were caught by bad guys. It's not always so lucky to find them back. Boscadora nodded heavily and agreed. Hey, oh, with Boscadora's roar, the other big guys followed their leader and slowly retreated to the Kalu tunnel. Seeing that the matter was over, Chen Shi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Mayor Nakajima and his men stopped them in time, and these big guys didn't cause too much damage, and no casualties were caused. This is already the best result. After saying hello to Mayor Nakajima, Chen Shi took Daigo back home. Tyranitar and Garchomp didn't go back either, and followed him to the villa. They wanted to see how their apprentices performed. When they heard that their grandson wanted to fight Daigo, the two old men also became interested. They found an open space on the farm, and Gardevoir created a superpower barrier, and a simple battlefield appeared. Daigo, let me see the strength of the champion of the Caillou Conference. Daigo's eyes were full of excitement. You will see it. Go, Metagross. Meta. Silver shining Metagross suddenly appeared on the field. Chen Shi smiled lightly, and the blood in his heart was ignited. Dronchi, come and welcome your first battle after evolution. Chia. Dronchi roared, flew to the field and confronted Metagross from a distance. However, because Duolongchi has not yet evolved to its final form, its voice is still a little immature, and this roar does not sound very powerful. It is more or less cute. Look, the fiery land shark on the side is drooling. Grandpa Chen stepped forward and glanced at the two of them, then I declare that the battle begins. Duolongchi, sneak attack, Megalodon, mental power. As Grandpa Chen's voice fell, the two people's orders also sounded. Duolongchi, who heard the order, flashed into the different space, causing the mental power of the Metagross to fail and hit the ground heavily. Megalodon, open the light wall. I saw Daigo commanding the Metagross slowly, trying to open the light wall. But how could Chen Shi give him this opportunity? Duolongchi, interrupt it. The next moment, Duolongchi came out from behind the Metagross. Daigo's mouth drew a smile. He was fooled. Chen Shi felt something was wrong, and quickly commanded, Durongchi, use hold immediately. Sure enough, Daigo's voice rang out. Catch it, Metagross, use Frozen Fist. Metagross took a sneak attack, and it endured the pain. One claw held Durongchi tightly, and the other claw was about to hit Durongchi hard with a Frozen Fist. Unfortunately, Durongchi used the magical skill of holding in time. This skill is not 100% resistant in reality. If the strength exceeds the limit of holding, it will also be broken. But Durongchi and Metagross are both at the gym level, and Metagross obviously can't do it with a Frozen Fist. The result is not unexpected. Metagross's Frozen Fist hits a green light curtain. Daigo frowned slightly. Megalodon, try again. Dronchi, turn back quickly. Hearing this command, Daigo was a little confused. Grandpa Chen's eyes lit up and he nodded with satisfaction. On the field, Doranchi stretched out his claws and grabbed Metagross, then turned into a red light and returned to the Pokeball. Because it was 1vs1, Chen-Shi only brought Doranchi with him, so it was Doranchi that came back on the field. But now Doranchi has broken free from Metagross. Daigo was refreshed and admired it in his heart. It was really amazing. It was able to use the skill of turning back quickly to break free from Metagross and avoid the frozen fist at the same time. Daigo's heart was also hot. It had been a long time since anyone could give him this feeling. He shouted, "Fight to your heart's content, Metagross, use the cannon beam." Meta, ta. Chen-Shi waved his hand, Doriki, use Shadow Ball. Kai, A. Metagross's cannon beam collided with Doriki's shadow, raising a large puff of smoke. Doriki, use the subconscious surprise attack. Metagross, do it again. Metagross's cannon beam fired again, but it hit Gardevoir's psychic barrier. Obviously, Doriki has entered the alien space. Dao suddenly felt a headache. This Doriki was too shameless. The previous tactics must not be used a second time, but he was not completely helpless. Metagross, the telekinesis spreads all over the field, and when it comes out, use the frozen punch. Metagross's eyes turned blue, and the powerful telekinesis spread all over the battlefield. Chen-Shi secretly said that it was not good. Before he could respond, Duolongchi had already come out of the alien space, and the rich ghost attribute energy hit the giant gold monster. But Duolongchi had also been locked by the giant gold monster with telekinesis. Then, a freezing punch hit Duolongchi and knocked it to the ground. Duolong had not yet evolved to the final stage, and could not withstand the freezing punch of the giant gold monster at all. As expected, Duolongchi was lying on the ground and lost his ability to fight. Chen-Shi hurried over to pick up Dragonite and waved to Gardevoir. Gardevoir also understood what he meant, and after removing the psychic barrier, it used a life drop on Dragonite. Dragonite soon woke up, and its narrow yellow eyes were full of guilt. Kai, Chia, it turned its head away, not daring to look into the trainer's eyes. Chen-Shi comforted softly, "You have done very well, Dragonite. I am proud of you. After you evolve to the final form, we will fight them again. You have to cheer up." Dorite looked at Chen-Shi, then at the Metagross in the sky, and nodded vigorously. Kai, A. Next time I will definitely win. Then it's a deal. Daigo walked over and said, "After you evolve, we will fight again." The two old men on the other side smiled at each other, not surprised by the result. Although the Dragonite has superior attributes, it is basically impossible for it to beat Metagross. Didn't you see that Metagross was fine after taking 2 lurking surprise attacks? And the little Dragonite was killed after just 1 frozen punch. It was already surprising that Chen-Shi could command Dragonite to fight Metagross like this. Daigo also understood this, so he said to wait until Dragonite evolves before fighting again. Land Shark. At this time, Garchomp ran up and questioned Chen-Shi why he didn't let Dragonite use dragon skills. Others didn't understand what Garchomp was talking about. And Dragonite closed his eyes and flew away directly. He couldn't bear to look at this embarrassing thing. Chen-Shi explained patiently, Metallica is a steel-type Pokémon, and it has 2x resistance to dragon-type moves. But ghost-type skills are 2x restraint on Metagross, so I didn't let Little Dragon use dragon-type skills. Land Shark. Land Shark scratched his head in confusion, is that so? Then he smiled awkwardly and said, "It's been too long since we fought, I forgot." Dorlongchi glanced at Land Shark with his narrow eyes, and even I knew something, but you, as a master, didn't know it. You're really embarrassed. After Gardevoir also gave Metagross a life drop, Daigo was ready to leave. Chen-Shi, I'm going back. I'm really happy today. Thank you very much for the information you provided. It really helps us a lot. Chen-Shi smiled and didn't say much. He just said, "You are welcome to come and visit anytime. Contact me anytime if you have anything." Daigo readily agreed. After saying goodbye to Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen, he rode on an armored bird and left. The two old people were a little confused. How come the relationship between the two children suddenly became better after going out and fighting back? But they didn't ask much. It's good for young people to have more contact, especially young people with extraordinary talents like Daigo. After returning home and arranging the training of Togepi, Chen Shi was flipping through the Metagross training manual sent by Daigo. A shining iron dumbbell flew around the room, as if looking at the new home. The Zavoki family can be said to be the family that knows the most about Metagross in the world. In this training manual, it is described in detail what to eat and how to train at each stage from iron dumbbell to Metagross. I wonder how many detours this can help Chen Shi avoid. After reading it, Chen Shi fell into deep thought. The training manual also detailed that in the iron dumbbell stage, it only needs to keep eating and grow naturally. In addition to energy cubes, it is also necessary to feed it with various precious ores. Some of these ores make the iron dumbbell's body denser, and some can make its body lighter or more flexible. But Chen Shi doesn't have to worry about this. 3 large trucks have just driven into the Chen family farm. Those are the ores sent by Devon Company, which have been sorted. He only needs to feed the iron dumbbell on time. Chen Shi moved his sight to the iron dumbbell flying around the room, and he couldn't help feeling a little fortunate. Although this thing has no fighting power now, it can only bump around, just like the previous little Dragonite. But fortunately, iron dumbbell can evolve into metal monster when it reaches the middle level. This is much stronger than little Dragonite. After evolving into metal monster, it can also be regarded as having good fighting power, and can also carry out various training and combat. By then, with a large amount of resources invested, I believe Chen Shi will soon have a silver shining Metagross. Putting down the manual, Chen Shi looked at the Togepi Pokémon egg fixed on the table, and chuckled as he thought of something. Then he took a piece of letter paper and started writing. Iron Dumbbell was a little confused and didn't understand what his trainer was writing. Why did he smile foolishly while writing? Like a pervert. At noon, Chen Shi came back from outside after finishing his work. As soon as he opened the door, he saw his grandfather waving at him. Chen Shi walked forward, a little confused. "What's wrong, Grandpa?" "What's the matter?" Grandpa Chen said. "An old friend of mine contacted me and asked me to take care of his granddaughter. Go and bring his granddaughter back for me." Chen Shi immediately agreed. "Okay, she's there, I'll pick her up. At the Sending God volcano, take your grandma's Gengar there, it knows the way." Ko-Jia. Zhang Gui smiled and emerged half of his body from Grandma Chen's shadow, waving at Chen Shi. "Send God volcano," Chen Shi exclaimed. "Does anyone live in that ghost place?" Grandpa Chen said unhappily. "You'll know when you go there, Gengar will lead the way for you." Ko-Jia. Zhang Gui patted his belly, indicating that it was up to him. Then he dived directly into his shadow. Seeing this, Chen Shi had no choice but to agree. "Then you go now, let Tyrannosaurus take you there, and try to come back in the evening." Grandpa Chen handed over a Pokeball. "Okay then," Chen Shi agreed reluctantly. Back mountain, Chen Shi found Tyrannosaurus who was training Duolongchi. "Sister Long, my grandfather asked you to take me to the God-sending volcano. I'll trouble you to go with me." Chen Shi took out the Pokeball that his grandfather gave him and showed it to Tyrannosaurus. When Tyrannosaurus saw his Pokeball, he didn't hesitate too much, and leaned down directly, motioning Chen Shi to get on his back. But just as they were about to leave, Duolongchi got anxious. "Chia, what's wrong? Why don't you take me with you? I'll be back in the evening, what are you going to do?" But Duolongchi refused and insisted on going with him. Okay, you come too." Chen Shi couldn't stand Duolong's pitiful look, so he had to agree. Duolongchi turned around happily after hearing this. Flying down and lying next to Chen Shi, the Tyrannosaurus flapped its wings slowly and flew in the direction Chen Shi pointed. Soon, Chen Shi felt that the speed was getting faster and faster, and he was blown into a big back hair. The little Duolong on Duolongchi's head screamed excitedly. The faster it went, the happier it was. Chen Shi was a little speechless. No wonder it liked to be shot out as a dragon arrow. Just for its enthusiasm, if Duolongchi evolved into Duolong Baruto in the future, Duolong would have to shoot several times a day, right? I don't know if Duolong can bear it in the future. Chen Shi thought wickedly. Duolongchi on the side seemed to have noticed it, and looked around with his head turned, but didn't find anything wrong, so he lay down again. It also enjoyed the feeling of flying at high speed. Chen Shi couldn't help looking down, and he called it a pervert in his heart. "This is Zijin City, right? Do you have to be so exaggerated? You are the Dragonite, right? More than an hour later, Tyranitar brought Chen Shi to the foot of Mount Sending God. Thank you for your hard work, Sister Long. Chen Shi patted Tyranitar's neck and put it back into the Pokeball. The Mount Sending God in the Hoenn region, like the Pokémon Tower in Aster Town in the Kanto region, is the burial place of many Pokémon. Most of them are Pokémon with trainers. Some of them died in battle, and some died naturally at the end of their lifespan and were buried here by their trainers. It is precisely because of this that many ghost Pokémon are attracted. Over time, this place has become a paradise for ghost Pokémon, and they often come out at night to scare people. Therefore, usually, except for trainers who come to bury their partners and people who want to capture ghost Pokémon, basically no one will come to this ghost place. But Doronki seems to like this place very much, looking here and there. After arriving here, Zhang Gui jumped out of Chen Shi's shadow and led him up the steps to the mountain. As they went up the mountain, the sunlight in the sky was gradually blocked by a layer of thick fog, giving people a gray feeling, and the temperature was also dropping. On the way, Chen Shi also saw a few people going down the mountain, all of them with sad faces. Chen Shi also understood what was going on, and ignored these people, just quietly following Zhang Gui. Not long after, they came to the halfway point of the mountain, and Zhang Gui led him to a stone wall after turning 7 or 8 times. Zhang Gui kept groping on the stone wall, and soon, it showed surprise on its face, and with a pull of its fat hand, a dark passage appeared in front of Chen Shi. Ko Jia. Zhang Gui pointed to the passage, indicating that this was it. Looking at the eerie and terrifying passage in front of him, Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and after a sigh, he followed Zhang Gui in. After passing through the passage, Chen Shi was dumbfounded. This place is like an independent little world, with mountains and water, and a large number of flowers of various colors. There is no sun in the sky, and a strange stone is everywhere, emitting a faint light, illuminating the whole world. There are constant sinister laughter around, and Chen Shi knows without looking that there must be a large number of ghost-type elves living here. Because the ghost-type energy here is extremely rich, it can be said to be a paradise for ghost-type elves. If Xiao Duolong could grow up here, maybe he could evolve into Duolongqi in more than 9 months. Ko Jia. Zhang Gui called out, motioning him to follow quickly. Not long after, Chen Shi suddenly found a girl with dark skin, wearing a blue long skirt, and 2 red flower ornaments on both sides of her hair. She was concentrating on planting flowers at this time and did not notice Chen Shi. Zhang Gui scratched his head. For some reason, this girl gave her a very kind feeling. Chen Shi looked at this outfit and always felt very familiar. After searching the memory in his mind carefully, Chen Shi slapped his forehead and finally remembered. Isn't this the future Fengyuan Ghost King, Farong? Could it be that Grandpa asked me to pick her up? That's right. Grandpa said that it was his old friend who lived in the Songshan volcano. Isn't that Farong's grandpa? Then the person he was going to pick up was Farong. Thinking of this, Chen Shi said, "Hello, are you the person I want to pick up?" Farong was startled and turned her head quickly. Who are you? Why are you here? This is not a place you can come to, please leave here. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. Did he guess wrong? Farong was not the person he was going to pick up, so who could it be? Chen Shi moved his sight to Gengar, who pointed to the road ahead, indicating that they had not arrived yet. Hey, are you listening to me? I said please leave here, this is not the place for you. Farong said fiercely, with her hands on her hips. Chen Shi was a little amused and wanted to tease this girl, so he said, what if I came here anyway? You. Farong was furious and pointed at Chen Shi, why are you so unreasonable? I told you that this is not the place for you. Don't blame me for not reminding you if you encounter danger later. Chen Shi was happy. Farong was still a simple and cute little girl now, not the future Ghost King. This made him playful, and he said, what a coincidence. I like danger the most. I love to go wherever there is danger. Farong was speechless. Why is this person like this? I told you that there is danger, but you are still excited. Are all people outside like this? You still like danger and go wherever there is danger. Farong snorted coldly, if you don't leave, I won't be polite. Xiaoling, come out. As Farong finished speaking, an elite peak knight sorcerer emerged from Farong's shadow. A single scarlet eye looked at Chen Shi coldly. Pokémon. Night Sorcerer. Level 49 Elite Peak. Qualification Champion. Gender Male. Skills Bind, Stare, Freeze, Scare, Shadow Fist, Gravity, Shadow Sneak Attack, Strange Light, Night Sorcerer, Shadow Ball, Black Eyes, Flame Fist, Lightning Fist, Tooth for Tooth, Ice Fist. Chen Shi touched his chin. Elite Peak Strength, Champion Level Qualifications. He is worthy of being the future Ghost King. He has 2 brushes. Duolong, scare her. Duolong glanced at the Night Sorcerer with disdain, which is much worse than Metagross. Then, the aura of the late Jim spread from it and pressed on the Night Demon. The Night Demon's eyes suddenly became serious. It could feel that the opponent was also a Ghost-type Pokémon, and it was much stronger than it. Farong's face was ugly, and then she snorted coldly, "Since you want to die, I won't stop you. Xiaoling, come back." Hearing this, the Night Demon flew to Farong, but his eyes were always fixed on Duolongchi. Fearing that it would hurt Farong the next moment, Chen Shi was also a funny person and continued to tease her. "Little girl, don't talk big too early. Maybe you have to go with me later." He also figured it out. The person he was going to pick up must be Farong. It's just that this little girl didn't know and thought he was someone who had strayed here. Chen Shi didn't tell her, just waited to see what her expression would be after she knew the truth. "Zhang Gui, let's keep going." Ko Jia. Zhang Gui the ghost agreed and took Chen Shi up the mountain. Seeing that they were leaving, Farong stopped planting flowers and followed Chen Shi. "Humph, I want to see what you will do if you go to the wrong place and encounter danger. I will definitely laugh at you and let Xiaoling throw you out." Although the little girl is evil-minded, she still doesn't want a life to die, and plans to save his life when he is in danger. But what happened next made Farong dumbfounded. I saw that under the leadership of that Zhang Gui, they were all on the right path and were about to reach her home. Farong was a little confused. Where did that Zhang Gui come from? He was so familiar with this place. The next moment, Farong's eyes turned and she thought it was good. Let Grandpa and Grandma teach him a lesson, and then let Xiaoling throw him out. Well, that's it. Farong clenched her little fist and thought angrily. Soon, under Zhang Gui's guidance, Chen Shi found a 2-story cabin. Ko Jia. Zhang Gui excitedly pointed to the cabin, indicating that this was it. Then he flew straight into the cabin. Chen Shi was silent for a moment, walked up and knocked on the door. Soon, a kind old lady opened the door. Before either party spoke, Farong behind him suddenly rushed forward and pointed at Chen Shi. "Grandma, this is the man who broke in here. I told him to leave but he didn't listen. Teach him a lesson." Grandma Farong looked at her granddaughter strangely. "Your grandfather and I asked him to come. Didn't we tell you?" Farong was stunned and stood there at a loss. Did you tell me?" Now Farong understood everything. What she said about liking danger and going wherever there is danger is all lies. This man was called by Grandpa and Grandma, and he is not afraid of danger at all. No wonder he could find the entrance here, no wonder that Gengar is so familiar with this place. Thinking of this, Farong's face suddenly turned red, and her little feet almost broke the wooden board on the ground. Chen Shi saw Farong's face turning green and red, and his heart suddenly burst into laughter. This little girl is quite cute. Then Chen Shi suppressed his smile and said to Grandma Farong, "Senior, my grandfather told me to come here to pick someone up." The old lady took a closer look at Chen Shi, and a smile appeared on her wrinkled face. "I know you. Old Chen brags about how good his grandson is every day. I guess it must be you. Come in first." Chen Shi scratched his head awkwardly, and blinked at Farong before entering the door. In the small world inside the Songshan volcano, in the wooden house on the top of the mountain. The layout here is very simple, and all kinds of furniture are made of wood, which looks very simple. In front of the wooden table in the living room, there is another old man, and Zhang Gui is happily telling something beside him. The old man listened carefully, nodding and responding from time to time. And this should be Farong's grandfather. Seeing his wife bringing a strange young man in, the old man waved gently. "Your name is Chen Shi, right? Come and sit first." Hearing this, Chen Shi sat down in front of the 2 old men. "I contacted Lao Chen this time to ask him to help me take care of my granddaughter." Farong, who had just walked in, was immediately surprised and said, Grandpa, are you going to let me go out? Farong's grandfather sighed. Come and sit too. Farong came over and sat next to Chen Shi. Seeing the latter still with a playful smile on his face, Farong looked a little unnatural, slightly turned his head, and did not dare to look at him. Grandpa Farong continued, this child has been growing up here. Her personality is relatively simple. I'll trouble you to take care of her in the future. Teach her how to live outside and distinguish between good and bad. Chen Shi's face was a little strange. Grandpa Farong was quite euphemistic. This girl is not relatively simple, she is obviously too simple. And he also understood what the old man meant. He just wanted him to be Farong's nanny for a while. And during this period, he helped her adapt to the outside world. Suddenly, Chen Shi suddenly remembered that the orbs of the flying fish and the fathead fish seemed to be in the hands of these two old people. After a moment of silence, he hinted, Senior, it's not peaceful outside now. Two underground organizations have emerged in Fengyuan recently, one is called the Magma Team and the other is called the Ocean Team. I heard that they seem to be looking for something, the purpose is to pursue the legendary god of the earth and the god of the ocean. I heard that they also have champion-level Pokémon. Some time ago, the Alliance sent Senior Mura, one of the 4 heavenly kings, to capture them, but unfortunately they didn't get any benefits. Do you still want me to take your granddaughter out? Of course, I don't mean to refuse you, I just remind you, otherwise I wouldn't come. Hearing this, the two old men looked solemn. How could they not see the young man's little thoughts? This is to remind them to protect the orb by taking advantage of Farong's matter. They didn't ask Chen Shi how he knew these things. Since he had reminded them, it meant that the other party had no ill intentions. There is no point in breaking the casserole to get to the bottom of some things. The old man has lived for so many years and has long seen it. Grandpa Farong pondered for a moment, then tapped his cane. Another Gengar suddenly appeared in his shadow. Go and help me get that thing out. Hearing this, Gengar crawled out and disappeared. Chen Shi took a look at the data of the Gengar. Well, it was at the peak of the king. He was not surprised. If these two old seniors did not have some strength, how could they protect the two orbs? A moment later, Gengar came back with a small black box and placed it on the table. This is your reward. I'll trouble you to take care of Farong in the future. Also, thank you very much for your reminder. If there is any accident, I'll trouble you to lend a hand. Chen Shi was stunned, but didn't take it seriously. But when he opened the box, Chen Shi's pupils suddenly contracted, and the Pokeball of Duolongchi on his waist shook violently. Chen Shi quickly closed the box, and Duolongchi calmed down. At this time, he also understood the meaning of the old man's last sentence. This is to hope that if there is any accident inside the Sending God volcano, he will have to come to help. To put it bluntly, he wants Chen Shi to owe him a favor. But this favor really has to be owed. Because when I opened the box just now, the system panel gave a description of the items inside. A piece of reverse scale that Giratina naturally sheds has a strong attraction to Dragon-type Pokémon or Ghost-type Pokémon. Closing square bracket. This attraction is really strong. No problem. For Dragon and Ghost-type Dragon, this attraction is almost full. Just now it almost rushed out of the Pokeball. Then Chen Shi thought about it and nodded heavily, I agree to this matter. Grandpa Farong nodded slightly, and everyone understood tacitly. Turning his head to Farong, he said, you go upstairs to pack your things and follow him out. Farong agreed excitedly and ran upstairs. She had wanted to go out for a long time. She had been staying here just so there is no point in planting flowers in boredom. After she left, Chen Shi couldn't help asking, Senior, are you really giving me this thing? Don't you regret it? The old man shook his head slowly, it's useless to keep this thing in my hands, it's better to give it to you. I hope you can take care of this place when you grow up in the future. No problem, Chen Shi promised without any nonsense. If you need my help, just contact me. Although he owed a big favor, Chen Shi was willing. If you throw this reverse scale to Duolong when it evolves, it may allow Duolong to usher in a complete transformation. As a ghost dragon like Duolong, Giratina is a first-level god, the benefits of its naturally dropped reverse scale to Duolong are naturally needless to say. That's why Chen Shi agreed so readily. Afterwards, the old man smiled and said, please pay more attention to Farong. She has been living here and growing up under our care. She doesn't know how evil people are outside. We don't want to tie her here for life, so we can only ask you. Grandma Farong also agreed. Yes, young people, you always have to go out and see. A trace of memories flashed across her cloudy eyes, as if she thought of things when she was young. Chen Shi shrugged, then let her live in my farm for a while. When the time is right, let her go out and see. If she suffers a little, she will understand everything. It's useless to teach Farong in this situation. You can only let her experience it herself and let her understand the evil outside. Otherwise, no matter how many times you say it, it's useless. Anyway, in TV dramas, innocent little girls like her can survive. There shouldn't be any problem. After hearing Chen Shi's words, Grandpa Farong was stunned. After a moment of silence, he sighed. You're right. Go out and see more. You'll understand everything after a little loss. If I had your awareness, my son. Grandma Farong on the side immediately stopped the old man. Okay, old man, why are you saying this? Then, she said to Chen Shi, Xiao Shi, just do as you say. Okay, I'll take her away later. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.